What is going on, guys? We are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. Going to be live for the next 2 hours. And I'm going to be doing another live best ball draft on this live stream. How's it going, Jeremy? How's it going, Phil? Good to see you here, both of you. Thank you for tuning in. This is going to be a fun live stream. I've had a lot of fun doing these, so I'm excited to get started. There's a lot of NFL news starting to trickle in, so I'm excited to talk with you all about it. Turn my Wi-Fi on so I can try to go live on TikTok. Gonna, of course, as always, answer some of your questions while going through a live best ball draft on YouTube. So I'm excited to get going. We got 5 more spots to fill. I'm getting so hyped for this year. Jeremy, me too. We're coming up on, Jeremy, being 100 days away from the NFL season. Noah, how is it going? Welcome. My name is actually Sam. It's a classic mistake. Walter is an artificially intelligent algorithm that I built. Lost connection. Gotta get this Wi-Fi figured out. Good connection. That's good. Hopefully the Wi-Fi is good for the rest of the stream. Jeez. Let's get off of Bluetooth. Jack, how's it going? We are live on YouTube, waiting to get started in this draft. I'm very excited to get this draft kick off. I'm nearing my 100 mark. I've almost done 100 drafts, 100 best ball drafts. It's coming up on 100 best ball drafts in the tournament. How should I approach a 12-team standard Superflex draft? You need to draft a quarterback. If you're in a Superflex league, you need to draft at least one quarterback in the first 3 rounds. Quarterbacks are extremely valuable in Superflex leagues. And hopefully this connection can get a little bit better here. This is strange on TikTok. I haven't had this happen before. Very weird. What pick is your favorite to pick from? Let's go, Arhoon Baller. How is it going, man? What is your favorite pick to pick from? It honestly depends on the draft. But this season, because I like Saquon Barkley as the 2nd overall pick, I think I'm going to like the 4th overall pick in a lot of drafts because he's falling to 4th overall, 3rd overall in a significant amount of drafts. The connection is struggling today on TikTok. I might have to stop and start the stream again, maybe. What's your input on Julio Jones? Guys, Julio Jones is out. He's out of Atlanta. He is clearly out. I do not think he's going to end up on the Patriots. I honestly think the team he ends up on is going to be either the Raiders, who are a team that in classic Raiders fashion, they're going to convince themselves they're Super Bowl contenders. They're going to take on Julio Jones' contract, and they're going to give up like way too much. They're going to be convinced into like a first-round pick and more for Julio Jones. That's what the Raiders are going to do. But I think that the Indianapolis Colts are the team that has the most to gain from Julio Jones. So I won't be surprised if Julio Jones ends up on the Indianapolis Colts. I won't be surprised if he ends up on the Raiders. I would be actually pretty surprised if he ends up on the Patriots. The Patriots also, though, are a team that really could use a guy like Julio Jones. Yo, Sam, top 5 running backs to aim for. Yeah, so I'm sharing a live draft. I'm going to be doing a live draft on YouTube. And on this stream, you can look at who's top in terms of average draft position. And my rankings go a little bit different than how people have been drafting. I have Christian McCaffrey number 1 overall, obviously. I posted a video about this earlier this week. There is no debate about who is number 1 overall in fantasy football. Guys, Christian McCaffrey had the 2nd best fantasy football season of all time not that long ago. Number 2, though, is Saquon Barkley. If you're watching on TikTok, right now on TikTok, I'm showing the percentage of times I've drafted players. I've done almost 100 best ball drafts already. And I can't stop drafting Saquon Barkley. If he's available after the 1st overall pick, he's on my team. Guaranteed. If I have the 2nd pick, I'm taking him. If I have the 3rd pick, I'm taking him. If I have the 4th pick, I'm pumped that he's falling to the 4th pick. So I'm in on Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is our number 2 overall ranked running back this season. Dalvin Cook is number 3. But because I have Saquon Barkley ranked ahead of Dalvin Cook, I'm just drafting a lot of Saquon Barkley. Because most people are drafting Dalvin Cook before Saquon. Is CeeDee good? Yes, CeeDee Lamb is an absolute baller. And you want him on your fantasy teams. Daniel Jones breakout year. I've seen photos of him recently. The dude is jacked. Yeah, but being jacked at quarterback doesn't mean that much, I feel like. It means more in other positions. That being said, Daniel Jones does run the ball. He actually ran the ball more than any time, any season ever last season. So that it should help him as a runner. But what Daniel Jones really needs to excel at is his accuracy. And he needs to not make careless mistakes. And he needs to stop fumbling the ball. If you're a Giants fan, you know this. No player, and it's honestly not even close, has fumbled the ball more than Daniel Jones over the last 2 years. He leads the league by like 10. All Daniel Jones does is fumble. He's got to hold on to the ball. Not fantasy, bud, but not fantasy, but who would you predict for Daniel Jones? But what would you predict for Daniel Jones next season? Listen, my overall take on the Giants is that they need to figure out sooner rather than later that Daniel Jones is not a Super Bowl contender. He can't be on a team that is a Super Bowl contender. I don't think he's good enough. But I do think he's surrounded by the best weapons he's ever had. So I won't be surprised if he has a career year. But I honestly think that could be a step in the wrong direction for the Giants, because I don't think Daniel Jones will ever be good enough to win a Super Bowl. Is it crazy to say Waller over Kittle, says Jack on YouTube. I'm live on YouTube right now as well, by the way. I'm sharing my screen to a live draft I'm about to start. Waiting on 3 more people to join this draft, and then we will be starting a live draft on YouTube. A best ball draft. I've done about 100 of these. Again, you can see the running backs I'm drafting most frequently behind me. I'll show you the tight ends that I've been drafting most frequently if you're watching on TikTok, because the tight ends are honestly probably what I'm most happy about how my drafts have gone so far. My wide receivers are probably what I'm most concerned about. But my tight ends, I'm drafting Darren Waller in the late second, early third round every single time. And I have him ranked ahead of George Kittle. And it's not me saying that Darren Waller is all of a sudden a better tight end than George Kittle. We all know that's not the case. But what we do know is that there's only 2 tight ends last season that had at least 5 targets in every single game except for one, Travis Kelce and Darren Waller. Darren Waller also lost target competition this offseason. George Kittle gained target competition. Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk the Bazooka coming back fully healthy. Both of them are very good receivers. And if Trey Lance is the quarterback for the 49ers, that is not a good thing for George Kittle. They're going to run the ball a lot on that team. So for all of those reasons, Darren Waller should be ranked ahead of George Kittle in fantasy football. Again, he's not a better tight end. He's not a better tight end than George Kittle. This isn't debatable. Fantasy HQ, how's it going, my man? Good to see you in here. We got to get a podcast together. We got to get on the podcast. We got to get on the podcast together. I would love to do that. What's the earliest pick you take Kelce in a draft? The earliest pick is 5th overall. I personally haven't been taking him until 7th overall. But Travis Kelce is the single biggest positional advantage outside of Christian McCaffrey in fantasy football. It just the tight end group is so bad, and Travis Kelce is so good that you need to consider taking him at 7th overall in the first round. And that's where he's going, by the way. He has an ADP of 7.3. So on average, he's getting picked at pick 7. I would take Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, and Alvin Kamara all before him. But then I'm taking Travis Kelce. I picked 7th in a 14-man. Who should I aim for? Aim for Travis Kelce, aim for Alvin Kamara. One of those 2 guys is a huge win. Honestly, I like the 7th overall pick. I dislike the 8th overall pick a lot more than the 7th overall pick. I like Ezekiel Elliott a lot. And the thing is, though, you can probably get him at 9th, 10th, even 11th overall pick in a lot of drafts. Who I'm most concerned about in the first round is Jonathan Taylor. And this one could easily blow up in my face. Jonathan Taylor could easily end up the number 1 overall running back. Like, that's how talented Jonathan Taylor is. That's how good that offensive line is. But there's more competition. Xander asks, when does my draft start? I'm streaming live on YouTube and TikTok right now. Go check out the YouTube stream if you haven't checked it out yet. The link is in our TikTok bio. You can see a draft that I'm about to start, and it's going to start once 3 more people join. Best Ball Mania 2 draft on Underdog Fantasy. I'm also showing behind me, this is the percentage of times I've drafted these tight ends. I've done almost 100 drafts already. And when I miss on Darren Waller, I'm almost always, and I'll bring this up on, I will bring this up on the YouTube stream as well so you can see what I'm talking about. I've done 94 of these drafts, as you can see here. We'll see the exposure. But in these drafts, if I miss on Darren Waller, I'm almost always drafting Tyler Higbee. The breakout season for Tyler Higbee is inevitable. It is inevitable. No more Gerald Everett. And he's getting an upgrade at quarterback with Matthew Stafford, who has had some very good tight end seasons. So I'm all in on the Tyler Higbee hype. And if I miss on Darren Waller, though, I'm also interested in Kyle Pitts in the 4th and 5th round. But Kyle Pitts is going earlier and earlier. This is a snake draft. This is the percentage of times I have drafted these players in 94 drafts so far this year. I've done 94. I've been doing them very consistently because I'm going for the $1 million prize in this best ball tournament. Check this out. These are the prizes that I'm competing for. And this is the prize I'm going for. First overall, if you're watching live on TikTok. I'm going for the first overall prize, and I'm going to be the first person to become a millionaire playing fantasy football. This is the plan. Should I keep Akers in 6th or Justin Jefferson in 14th? That is a really tough one, Joe. I really like Cam Akers a lot this year. To give you some context, Joe, about where these players are being drafted in the 94 drafts I've done. Cam Akers is consistently going in early 2nd round. So he's like the 15th, 16th overall pick in most drafts. Justin Jefferson's going in the early 3rd round. So Cam Akers absolutely is more valuable than Justin Jefferson in your fantasy football league. But the price difference there, it's hard not to keep Justin Jefferson. I mean, you're basically getting him for free. What website is this? I do these drafts on Underdog Fantasy. It's a website and an app. And you can download that. Use code Walter if you do. Taking a look at the quarterbacks that I've been drafting. And I got it on YouTube. Let's just double check that this draft hasn't started yet. Starts shortly. This is good news. So if you want to watch a live one of these drafts right now, you can. You can right now on YouTube. Come to our YouTube Live. We are live on YouTube. YouTube Lives are actually a little bit better than TikTok Lives. Don't tell TikTok I said that. But they're actually a little bit better because this chat is a little less spammy. If you win the $1 million, that would be legendary. Tommy, this is the plan. This is the plan. This is why I'm doing 150 of these drafts, the maximum I'm allowed to do, because I'm going to. I have a strategy. I have a strategy based on thousands of drafts that I've analyzed. So I know the optimal roster construction for this format, for this specific format. So I have a good strategy in place, and I'm going to execute on the strategy. I see you've been drafting Daniel Jones. Yes, about 11% of the drafts I've drafted Daniel Jones. And you can see here, I'm trying to really diversify the quarterbacks I'm drafting. But Daniel Jones is available in like the 14th, 13th, 12th round. So if I wait on quarterbacks, yes, I've been drafting Daniel Jones sometimes. Are you going to release your app on Android? You know it. A little less spammy. You have 45 people in there. Yeah, it is, but it is a little less spammy. It definitely is. Definitely when we have more people, it is a little less spammy as well. Are you going to release your app on Android? Yes, we are. The question is when, not if. Hopefully we have it out before the start of the NFL season. By the way, if you want to watch us live on YouTube, we are live on YouTube right now. And you can see a live draft that I am doing. I have the 9th overall pick in this draft. My pick is coming up. Are you high on Elliott? Yeah, so let me show you. Again, I'll go back to my running backs here that I've drafted. And I don't think Ezekiel Elliott makes it onto this top list. But I like Ezekiel Elliott. The problem is I like Austin Eckler more than Ezekiel Elliott. This is the problem. This is the problem for me in fantasy football drafts. Because Ezekiel Elliott is going in the, he's going 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, sometimes 11th overall. People are very sour on Ezekiel Elliott. I have the 9th overall pick in this draft I'm doing live on YouTube. Again, come to that YouTube stream. Hit that like button, by the way, if you're watching live on YouTube. Here from TikTok, Boris. Appreciate you. What are your thoughts on Pitts after Julio gets moved? Yeah, Kyle Pitts and Calvin Ridley, they're both going to move up draft boards, for sure. Kyle Pitts is already getting picked in the 4th, 5th round, though. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to pick him much higher than that. So I'm glad I've already drafted him a lot. But what you're looking at with a 9th overall pick, and Ezekiel Elliott gets picked right before me. And honestly, 9th overall pick is one of my least favorite picks this season. But I'm actually going to take Cam Akers here with the 9th overall pick. I'm going to go for the hyper-fragile running back strategy that I've been implementing on most of the teams that I've done. Again, I'm drafting live right now on YouTube. The link is in our TikTok bio, or just search WalterPicks on YouTube. I have the 9th overall pick, and really the first 8 players that are usually taken in the first 8 picks went. Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Travis Kelce, all picked. Alvin Kamara picked. And so what was left, I had to choose between Cam Akers, Aaron Jones, Tyreek Hill, Austin Eckler, but I'm hoping Austin Eckler is available with my second round pick. Where do you think Eckler will go? Yeah, he's going like early second round. Early second round. Sometimes the person who has the 12th overall pick, the last pick of the first round, is taking him with the first pick of the second round. But very, very uncommonly is he picked in the first round. Yeah, this is a very clean hat. Very clean hat. I've had this hat for a long time. Where do you think Eckler is going to be valued, though? Because I have Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler's upside, guys, is top 5. Top 5. He can be Alvin Kamara this season. It is within his range of outcomes. In this draft I'm doing live on YouTube. Again, come check out this draft. This is a real draft, $25 league that I'm drafting right now live on YouTube, best ball draft. And in this draft, Austin Eckler just went 12th overall. So I'm not even going to have a chance at him in the second round. I almost have to take a wide receiver. If you're watching live on YouTube right now, I'm going to consider Nick Chubb if he's there. But none of these receivers have been taken. I'll strongly consider Stephon Diggs and A.J. Brown. Najee Harris there is a drop-off in running backs, though, for me, after Najee Harris. Because Najee Harris is one of the running backs in fantasy that could actually see 300 carries. But you have to decide. I'm having to decide right now. Do I draft Najee Harris or do I draft A.J. Brown? What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. Najee Harris or A.J. Brown? I have 15 seconds to decide. Najee Harris or A.J. Brown. The thing about Najee Harris is there's just not that many good running backs. There's not that many good running backs. Which is why I like... It's why I'm going to lean... I'm still going A.J. Brown. Screw it. I went with A.J. Brown. Guys, first of all, I'm not worried about Julio Jones going to the Titans. And for that reason, A.J. Brown has a legitimate chance to be the number 1 overall wide receiver. And so I'm going with A.J. Brown over Najee Harris. And I might end up regretting this at the end of this draft when I have to pick guys like Raheem Mostert or Damian Harris. Some of the guys I'm getting late, I'm probably going to end up with Kareem Hunt again. I've taken him in 40% of my over 100 drafts that I've done. And you can see I've drafted Najee Harris a decent amount. 13% of the drafts. Again, I've done about 100 drafts. Good pick. He's going to be a top 5 wide receiver. Sam, how's it going? It is going fantastic because I just started out this draft with Cam Akers and A.J. Brown. 2 sophomore players who excelled throughout their rookie season, specifically at the end of their rookie season, and have very little competition heading into their sophomore season. Less competition even than they had their rookie year. A.J. Brown, no more Corey Davis. No more Jonnu Smith. Cam Akers, no more Malcolm Brown. This is a big deal for Cam Akers, by the way. No more Malcolm Brown. Darrell Henderson is just going to be a backup for Cam Akers. Cam Akers could see 30 touches a game. Yeah, you're right. A.J. Brown's a junior, though. Cam Akers is a sophomore. You're right. My bad on that, Jeremy. It feels like, yeah, he isn't a sophomore. He's a junior. Would you say it's a waste to take Austin Eckler in the mid-first with his receiving an insane O-line? No, I don't think it's insane. The question is, who are you taking him over, right, with Austin Eckler in the first round? In the draft I just did, he went 12th overall. I think that's about perfect for Austin Eckler. And I'm happy to take him a little bit before that. But do you want Austin Eckler over Ezekiel Elliott? I do. Personally, I would take Austin Eckler over Zeke, especially in a PPR league. Austin Eckler has no injury concerns. There's a little bit of that with Zeke. He didn't look good at the end of last season. And he has the best offensive line he's had in his career. There's a lot going for Austin Eckler, and he has no competition. Zeke has Tony Pollard behind him, who is good. So I think you can make the argument to take Austin Eckler over Ezekiel Elliott. Cam is going to be top 7, mark my words. Yeah, I think Cam Akers is going to ball out this year. I think Cam Akers has legitimate Todd Gurley upside this season with the Rams. And I don't say that lightly. Sam wearing the signature math hat. Yeah, I had to break it out. I haven't worn it in a while. Zeke had no QB. I agree. By the way, you're out of your mind. I'm not trying to trash on Zeke here. This is really about me loving Austin Eckler. I like Ezekiel Elliott too. I'm happy to take Zeke at the 8th, 9th overall pick. Ezekiel Elliott, you got to put his last season into context. Ezekiel Elliott had no quarterback and no offensive line and was dealing with injuries. All 3 of those things should not be the case this season. You think Ruggs is going to have a good year? Yeah, I've been drafting Henry Ruggs a decent amount. And I want to show you my wide receivers. You're all probably going to leave when you see these wide receivers. because these are my most drafted wide receivers so far, but you have to keep in context is these are price dependent. And I think Henry Ruggs is down somewhere below where you can't see. I'm on the clock here, live on YouTube. And I'm going to take Amari Cooper again. I've drafted Amari Cooper a lot in these drafts recently, in this same spot. But Amari Cooper is one of the safest wide receivers in all of fantasy football. He was actually very consistent last year. Yeah, Devonta Smith is by far my most drafted wide receiver. It's not even close. And I'm taking him consistently. Consistently, when Devonta Smith is there in the 7th or 8th round, he's not getting past really the 7th round in any draft I'm in. Because I refuse to let him slide, especially, this is important to remember, the YouTube is WalterPicks, at WalterPicks. I'm drafting live on YouTube right now. But it's important to understand how best ball works. And look at the roster construction here. I start with 3 wide receivers each week and 1 flex. I think about this as I'm starting 4 wide receivers each week. I only need to start 2 running backs each week. And then 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, 10 bench. And the way best ball works is your best lineup's automatically submitted for you at the end of the week. So there's no start-sit decisions. So I can draft boom and bust players. Is Walter going to hand out some NBA player prop winners soon? Yes, this one tonight I'm feeling good about. I felt good about both the ones previous 2 nights, by the way. Who isn't going past 7th? The 7th round, I refuse to let Devonta Smith fall past the 7th round. Devonta Smith is one of the best wide receiver prospects we've ever seen. So I refuse to let him slide. Another one of the best wide receiver prospects we've ever seen is Jamar Chase, who I just drafted live on YouTube as my 3rd wide receiver. Let's go. I love Walter. Yeah, listen, the last 2 nights of NBA props, by the way, if you've been following the NBA props in the WalterPicks app, we've had over 57% accuracy this season on almost 200 NBA props. Every night, at least one, almost the entire season. And so far, the playoffs, what is the app called that you're using? It's called Underdog. Look up Underdog on the App Store. Use code Walter, by the way, if you sign up. Really do appreciate you using that code. We do have a partnership with them. Running backs are better to draft early in best ball. This is exactly right. And I haven't done this in the draft that I'm doing right now. Usually I do. This is why I probably should have drafted Najee Harris over A.J. Brown. Because I'm only going to draft 3 or 4 running backs. With this roster construction, you only need to start 2 running backs. And the running backs picked in the first 3 rounds are just so much better than the rest of the running backs throughout the entire draft. And because I don't have to make start-sit decisions, I can kind of just piece together boom and bust wide receivers. Yeah, no, you should try it. It's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. And I'm going to be talking through best ball strategy on this YouTube as well, on this YouTube live stream. Shout out Yang Gang. This actually is not a Yang hat, but I do shout out Yang Gang. Thoughts on Keenan Allen? Yeah, Keenan Allen is very safe to me in fantasy football, but he doesn't have the exciting upside, especially as I'm doing these best ball drafts, that I really want in the 3rd round. He's getting picked before Michael Thomas, and I don't agree with that. So I've been drafting Michael Thomas over Keenan Allen pretty consistently. Thoughts on Calvin Ridley? Yeah, Calvin Ridley is a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy this season. Top 5. So I'm all in for Calvin Ridley. I don't see much of a difference between guys like Calvin Ridley and guys like Justin Jefferson, guys like A.J. Brown. Like, Calvin Ridley can be in the A.J. Brown tier. Who goes first this year? It's Christian McCaffrey, and there is no argument. There is no argument about who should go first. It's just Christian McCaffrey. Najee Harris, average draft position. Mitch, I just drafted. I'm doing a live draft on YouTube right now if you want to come check it out. But I'm doing a live draft on YouTube. I'm going to get to some more of your comments in a second. I'm live on YouTube right now doing a draft. I have the 9th overall pick. And in this draft, Najee Harris, whose ADP is about 18, so he's going like middle of the 2nd round. I had to decide between A.J. Brown and between Najee Harris. And I went with A.J. Brown. And honestly, as this draft is going on, and if you're watching live on YouTube, you can see the running backs left here. This is exactly why I should have taken Najee Harris. This is exactly why. The running backs get so slim, so fast. So fast. Cook goes number 1, no injury risk. Let me talk about this injury risk thing because I feel like I have to address this every live stream. Almost every time I talk fantasy at this point, especially this time of the offseason, especially during peak draft season for fantasy football. Stop pretending like you know who's going to get injured. You do not know who is going to get injured. Every single running back, specifically running backs, have an extremely high injury risk. It's one of the most injury-prone sports positions in all of sports. there's like a 40% chance, 50% chance or higher that a running back in the NFL is going to get injured, especially if they get a big workload. So let's not pretend like we know which of them is going to get injured. Do some of them have a higher probability of injury because of their previous injuries? Yes. But is that such a higher probability that it makes sense not to draft Christian McCaffrey over Dalvin Cook? That to not draft Saquon Barkley over Dalvin Cook? No, they all have pretty much a very high probability of injury. So let's not use that as our deciding factor. You don't know who's going to get injured. You don't. You just don't. Everyone said Will Fuller was injury prone last season. He played almost every game before he got suspended. Who should be first overall? It should be Christian McCaffrey. And I'm drafting Saquon Barkley second overall. But most people are not doing that. Most people are drafting Dalvin Cook second overall, Derrick Henry third overall, and then Saquon Barkley fourth overall. I'm taking Saquon Barkley with the second pick, third pick, or fourth pick if he's there. How you feel about Davante Adams? I love Davante Adams. I absolutely love Davante Adams. And I think he's the most talented wide receiver in the NFL right now. I don't really know how you could debate against that with the last season he just had. But if Aaron Rodgers isn't there, I want nothing to do with any of the Packers players. None of them. I've been drafting A.J. Dillon here and there because he's really, really sliding, and I think he's still going to get 40% of the workload for the Packers. So I like him as a late sleeper, especially on some of my zero RB teams. But I want nothing to do with Packers players right now. I'm just not sure if Aaron Rodgers is going to be there. If Aaron Rodgers is there, Davante Adams should be the first wide receiver taken. If Aaron Rodgers is not there, then he slides to like 6th or 7th wide receiver that should be taken. That's how big of a deal Aaron Rodgers is to the Packers. And if you're watching live on YouTube, I'm about to draft Kareem Hunt, who's my most drafted running back this season in this format. There's a few reasons why I absolutely love Kareem Hunt in best ball specifically. Because he has a floor. His floor is running back 3. This is the first reason. I need running backs with the strategy that I'm going to implement. I'm only drafting 3 or 4 wide running backs. I need running backs with a floor if I'm going to do this. And Kareem Hunt's floor is 10 touches a game. He's going to score a touchdown in about half of his games. He's going to be a running back 3 pretty consistently with Nick Chubb. His ceiling, though, Nick Chubb gets injured, and Kareem Hunt is a top 5 running back, and Sam wins $1 million in this tournament. This is the ceiling for Kareem Hunt, which is why I'm drafting him in so many of my best ball drafts. So many of my best ball drafts. Someone asked, will there be more streams/videos after the school year ends? Jeremy, yes. There's going to be a lot more content. A lot more content coming. I'm just scratching the surface right now in terms of my content that I am producing. And in about a month from now, a month and a half really, like mid-July, the amount of content I'm producing is going to increase exponentially. I'm very excited for it. There's a lot of updates too for WalterPicks coming very soon. Very exciting updates. WalterPicks is growing very fast. It's really exciting. I got a lot to update. Where in the draft will Najee Harris go and thoughts on him? Yeah, again, I think I talked about this earlier in the stream. I'm doing a live draft right now on YouTube, and I had to decide between Najee Harris and A.J. Brown in the middle of the second round. Middle of the second round is where both those guys are going. I'm going to take Javonte Williams here. Let me see what wide receivers are available first. Deontay Johnson's there, but I really need my third running back, so I'm going to go with Javonte Williams. But yeah, Najee Harris is going like very beginning or middle of the second round, and that's a great price for him because he's one of the few running backs that could get 300 carries. If the Steelers' offense is just okay, he'll probably get 300 carries, which is why I like Najee Harris. And I ended up drafting A.J. Brown over him in this draft. But I think in a high-stakes league, this is a $25 draft I'm doing right now, in a high-stakes league, I would have taken Najee Harris over A.J. Brown because the drop-off in running backs in fantasy football is just so steep. It's such a steep drop-off after Najee Harris. Like, all the first running backs have either really, really great receiving upside or 300-plus carry potential. And the drop-off for me is either Najee Harris or Joe Mixon. After that, you're just not getting the same caliber of player. And I'm going to switch to, if you're watching live on YouTube, let's look at the draft board here. This is a little bit better of a view. You can see how this draft has played out. If you're watching live on YouTube, so come to the YouTube stream, search WalterPicks on YouTube, or just go to our link in our TikTok bio. I had the 9th overall pick in this draft. I drafted 9th overall Cam Akers, who I absolutely love in fantasy this season. Cam Akers to me is one of the safest picks in fantasy with extreme upside. Extreme upside. He has Todd Gurley level upside. He was getting 30 touches a game throughout the playoffs and throughout the end of the season. Hey, what do you think about Michael Thomas? I am all in. I'm all in on Michael Thomas. If you see here, my most drafted wide receivers, Michael Thomas comes in at number 4. And it's important to distinct the prices I'm paying for these different players. Cordell Patterson is the player I'm taking with my last pick in almost every single draft. This is an 18-round draft that I've done. I've done 100 of these drafts, just about 100 of these drafts. This is the percentage of times I've drafted them. If you're watching live on TikTok, the percentage of times I've drafted these players out of 100 drafts. I've taken Cordell Patterson with my last overall pick. But I'm taking Michael Thomas. Every single time he's there in the 3rd round, he's on my team. If I'm on the clock in the 3rd round of a fantasy football draft, and Michael Thomas, a guy who's easily going to see at least 150 targets this year, a guy who has no competition, a guy who has already set records in the NFL at a very young age, is there in the 3rd round, I'm going to take him. I'm in on Michael Thomas. Absolutely. I'm in on Michael Thomas. And again, all these other guys, I'm drafting extremely late. So don't overreact to the players you're seeing here. But Michael Thomas is the one early wide receiver, like 3rd round. I'm taking him every time. Almost every time. Kenyon Drake, possible steal. Yes. I was doing some analysis on Kenyon Drake before. And by the way, this is the prizes that I'm going for with these drafts. I was doing some Kenyon Drake thinking and research and analysis earlier this week. And I don't know if there's a better zero running back target than Kenyon Drake. If you're going to do the zero running back approach, which means you're basically passing on the early round running backs, you're going to get really good wide receivers. You're going to get DeAndre Hopkins, A.J. Brown, Michael Thomas, Calvin Ridley, really good receivers. You're going to get Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, really good tight ends. But you're going to have to draft running backs late. Kenyon Drake's like the perfect guy for that strategy. Because, one, he's going to be involved as a receiver. He's on a team with not very many receivers. He's going to be involved as a receiver. I could see him getting 70 catches this season. And if Josh Jacobs is injured, then that is going to be a league-winning running back you have in Kenyon Drake. Like he could win leagues. Behind that offensive line, run first team. There's upside there behind with an injury, but there's also a floor. All right, I'm going to be on the clock here right now on YouTube, so let's check it out what I'm looking at. I have not drafted a tight end yet. It is round 7. Devonta Smith is probably still sitting here. He's not. So I'm going to go with Dallas Scott. Oh, he is. I'm taking Devonta Smith, round 7. This is my rule. I'm not going to let Devonta Smith pass round 7. Take a look at this again. My wide receivers that I've drafted. I will not let Devonta Smith slide past round 7. Every draft I'm in. What's your draft looking like? Come to the YouTube live stream. You can see exactly what my draft is looking like. I'll scroll down here so the YouTube live can see my team so far. I got Cam Akers, Kareem Hunt, Javonte Williams. I'm absolutely loving how this running back group comes together. And I have 2 running backs with the same bye, which isn't fantastic, but I don't really care. I don't really care about byes almost at all. I don't really think about them at all when I'm drafting, to be honest, because I just want the best players. I don't care about the bye weeks. It's honestly not a thing worth worrying about during your drafts. Would you compare CD to JJ this year? I absolutely love CeeDee Lamb. I love CeeDee Lamb. He's going too late, in my opinion. Him and Amari Cooper are 2 of the safest wide receivers in fantasy. Both of them can be consistent wide receiver once. They both can be. With Dak Prescott, who was averaging an insane amount of yards per game before he was injured last year, leading the league ahead of Kyler Murray, ahead of Patrick Mahomes. And if they air it out like they were at the beginning of last season, Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, and CeeDee Lamb are going to win fantasy football championships this year. So I absolutely love CeeDee Lamb. I'm about to be back on the clock here, and the tight ends are looking bleak, and I'm disappointed I don't have a tight end yet. But I'm probably going to have to pull the trigger on Noah Fant. Let's see how close he is to the top of the list here in terms of ADP. Yeah, he's pretty high up there. I don't really love, there's just such a steep drop-off in tight ends, and I missed out on Tyler Higbee. He was just picked before me. And I'm probably going to draft Anthony Ferguson late, but I'm going to go with Noah Fant in this draft. I need to draft 3 tight ends now because I just missed on the top tier of tight ends. Who should I take as a QB or tight end? Listen, my tight ends, take a look at this. I feel very confident about my tight end strategy, and this is basically it. This is basically an explanation of it. I'm trying to draft Darren Waller in the back end of the 2nd round or beginning of the 3rd round. So if I have an early 1st round pick, I'm drafting Darren Waller as much as I possibly can. He's my number 2 ranked overall tight end this year, ahead of George Kittle. He is one of the only tight ends that actually has a floor. Every other tight end basically has no floor. Their floor is like 5 points. Darren Waller is one of 2 tight ends that had at least 5 targets in every game except for one last year. It was him and Travis Kelce, end of list. So I'm in on Darren Waller big time. There's a huge drop-off in the tiers of tight ends. Travis Kelce's in his own tier. In tier 2 is Darren Waller and George Kittle. In tier 3 is Kyle Pitts, who I'm in on, especially with Julio Jones very likely leaving Atlanta. I'm in on Kyle Pitts in the 4th round. If I miss on Kyle Pitts in the 4th round, I miss on Darren Waller in the 2nd or 3rd round, then I'm drafting Tyler Higbee as much as I possibly can. He is the most obvious, inevitable breakout tight end this season. There's so much in his favor. And I'm drafting live on YouTube right now, by the way, if you want to see a live draft. I'll switch back to the draft board here on YouTube so you can see a little bit of this picture and what's going on here. I'll scroll down. But there is no tight end that is more poised to break out this season than Tyler Higbee. There's no tight end. He has an upgrade at quarterback, a significant upgrade at quarterback, I should add. He has no more Gerald Everett. Both of these things combined, I'm absolutely in on Tyler Higbee. Why is Julio Jones' ADP so low? People are so... how many players in this league? 12. There's 12 people in the league that I'm drafting in. 12 people in this league that I'm drafting in right now. And I'm going to try to get to some of the YouTube comments as well. I know I haven't gotten to as many comments as I was hoping to. It's tough sometimes when I'm also drafting. The best teacher at CHS, Yossi, I appreciate you, man. How many players in this league? There's 12. Why do you have Barkley over Cook? This is why I have Saquon Barkley over Dalvin Cook. I'm going to explain it very quickly. First of all, I don't pretend like I know who's going to get injured. Does Saquon Barkley have a slightly higher injury risk than Dalvin Cook because of his previous injury history? Yes. But both of them have a really high injury risk because they're playing the most injury-prone position in all of sports, and they see the ball 20-plus times a game. So yes, both of them have high injury risks. It's not something I'm considering when drafting anyone in fantasy football. And Saquon Barkley is the more athletic and talented running back who has less competition in the backfield. Saquon Barkley has none. Basically, literally none. Dalvin Cook doesn't have that much competition, but I am in on Saquon Barkley's ceiling ahead of Dalvin Cook's ceiling. I'm in on Saquon Barkley over Dalvin Cook. It's definitely close. It is definitely close. But I'm drafting Saquon Barkley over Dalvin Cook primarily because I think his upside as a wide receiver out of the backfield is higher than Dalvin Cook's. Even with Saquon's bad performance in his 2 games last season, I'm not going to take a 2-game sample and overblow a 2-game sample. Dalvin Cook is a very safe pick, though. Don't get me wrong, in fantasy football. They're the 2 and 3 picks for me in fantasy. And I have been drafting Dalvin Cook, and since I'm doing so many drafts, I have drafted Dalvin Cook 2nd overall in a few leagues. I'm back on the clock here. And I am no longer drafting running backs. I need another tight end. Logan Thomas is still available. But I'm going to draft Joe Burrow with this pick. Joe Burrow is a guy that I've liked a lot as he slid in drafts. And again, you don't know anything. Thanks, man. Good analysis. The quarterbacks that I've been drafting, Joe Burrow is the 4th most drafted quarterback that I drafted here. And I got him in round 9 in this draft. Round 9. Joe Burrow was throwing the ball over 40 times a game in his first games as ever in the NFL. He's fully healthy. He's had over a year to heal. And he's going to throw the ball 40-plus times a game to 3 of the better receivers in the NFL. Jamar Chase is going to absolutely ball out, guys. He's going to absolutely ball out. I'm going to draft Corey Davis with this next pick if he's still there. Corey Davis should lead the Jets in targets this season. And Corey Davis quietly, throughout this last season, had his best season of his career. It was quietly by far the best year Corey Davis has ever had. Corey Davis had at least 10 fantasy points in all but 3 games last year. He was extremely consistent. The ceiling wasn't that high, but enter him as the number 1 wide receiver. And if Zach Wilson can pan out, Corey Davis actually has a pretty high ceiling and a really good floor. I'm joking, bro. You're the GOAT. Oh, thanks, Nick. Wow, that turned around fast. What wide receiver should I take? There's so many wide receivers to take, but there is no wide receiver that I am in on more this season so far than Devonta Smith, who has been criticized and ridiculed throughout the entire draft process. Too small. He's too small of a receiver. We've never seen this small of a receiver do well. We've never seen it. But he is this good. He produced better than most college players in the history of college players. He has insane speed and insane route running and amazing hands. His size is not going to matter in the NFL. And he landed on a team that desperately needed a wide receiver. And he's available in the 7th and 8th round of fantasy drafts. This is why I cannot stop drafting Devonta Smith. I cannot stop drafting Devonta Smith. Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson, both, man. They are both, to me, the tiers of quarterbacks. The tier 1 of quarterbacks, it's Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray. And not necessarily in that order. Honestly, I think I would have Lamar Jackson 2. I think if I were to go in order, it would be Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson number 2, Kyler Murray number 3, and Josh Allen number 4. That's probably how I would rank them. And I know that's going to be seen as a knock against Josh Allen, but they're all in the same tier. I'm going to take which of those 4 guys is just available latest. And so far, that's been Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's the one that's sliding the farthest in fantasy drafts. I'm not drafting Patrick Mahomes because he's going in the 2nd, 3rd rounds of fantasy drafts. But in the 4th, 5th round, this is where you're getting Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson this year. Hi from Alberta. Thanks. Hi. Thoughts on Burrow? Yeah, I'm in on Burrow. I just drafted him. I'm live drafting on YouTube right now. Come over to the YouTube stream. We got 32 people watching live on YouTube. I appreciate every single one of you. Appreciate everyone tuned in on TikTok as well. If you're watching live on YouTube, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. It takes you 2 seconds to hit the like button on YouTube. It helps me out actually way more than you realize. So just hit that like button. I really do appreciate that. Stop telling everyone about Devonta Smith. Okay, I'll stop. I'm sorry. He's going to be my sleeper this year too, so maybe I should stop hyping him up so much. Lamar over Murray because of Murray's injuries last season. Yeah, listen, Lamar Jackson over Murray just because Lamar Jackson's going to lead the league in rushing again if he stays healthy. Lamar Jackson's the best rushing quarterback of all time already. That's how insane Lamar Jackson is. Lamar Jackson is on track to be, or you could argue already is, the best rushing quarterback of all time, and fantasy football is a game that incentivizes rushing quarterbacks. What website are you using for this draft? It's called Underdog Fantasy. Underdog. Just look up Underdog on your app store, on your web browser, and if you do make an account, by the way, these best ball drafts are a ton of fun. And there's also low stakes. This is a $25 league, and I'm competing for $1 million prizes. So it's fun. Hey, Walter, you know me. Sorry I'm late on vacation for my B-Day. No worries, man. Happy birthday. My day's going great. Thanks for tuning in on your birthday. That's super exciting. I'm thinking about Kenyon Drake here, by the way. I was just talking about why I think Kenyon Drake has a lot of upside as a late-round pick. Justin Fields is a guy I like a lot as well. But I'm going to go with Kenyon Drake with this pick if you're watching live on YouTube. This is going to be my last running back I draft. So these are the 4 running backs I took. I had to take another one because I did have 2 running backs with a Week 11 bye. Again, if you're watching live on YouTube, you can check out this draft I'm doing. And I'll move this over so you can see the picks as they happen. But I just drafted Kenyon Drake. So I have now 4 running backs. I'm done drafting running backs. Now look at my receivers, though. They're coming together very nice. This is a solid group of my top 5 wide receivers. And again, I can play 4 wide receivers each week. So I'm going to draft a lot more receivers still. I'm looking for boom and bust receivers for the rest of the way. But these 5 guys, I could legitimately lead the league, my league of these 12 people in scoring at the receiver position. Tight end, I'm going to struggle. Quarterback, I'm going to end up drafting 2 quarterbacks and probably 3 tight ends. I'm going to take Anthony Ferkser with my next pick if he's there. Because Anthony Ferkser, again, if I go on... You ever get bored from these drafts? No, I absolutely love fantasy football. I have not yet gotten bored in these drafts. And I'm showing my draft percentage so far. I've done about 100 of these drafts. I'm showing my draft percentage. And I'm about to take Anthony Ferkser in this draft as long as he doesn't get picked in the next 2 picks. Hopefully these 2 people that are drafting here aren't in this live stream because that would be disappointing if Anthony Ferkser goes. And he might. But if I miss on these 3 guys, I'm almost always drafting Anthony Ferkser. He's available in round 12. Round 12. And he has no more Jonnu Smith and no more Corey Davis to compete with for the Titans. They did not add any competition other than Josh Reynolds, who, by the way, I can also draft later in this draft. So now I got my 2 tight ends. Honestly, I might not draft another tight end now. I might stick with 2. I'm going to have to decide between 3 quarterbacks or 3 tight ends is really what I'm going to have to draft. What do you think of Najee Harris? I'm in on Najee Harris. I'm absolutely in on Najee Harris. He is one of the few running backs in the NFL that has a legitimate chance at 300 carries. And there's just not that many running backs in the NFL you can say that about. So I think he's going to ball out in the NFL. The biggest concern for Najee Harris is the same thing that halted James Conner last year. And Najee Harris is better than James Conner, don't get me wrong. But the biggest detriment to James Conner last season was the horrible Steelers offensive line. James Conner was getting tackled behind the line of scrimmage at a higher rate than almost every other running back in the league. And that is going to be an issue for Najee Harris. It's going to be an issue for any running back. That's the biggest concern for him. But the volume is there, and volume is king in fantasy football at the running back position, which is why I'm in on Najee Harris in the second round of fantasy drafts. But who am I in on with my last pick? Your last pick is very important in fantasy football. Your last pick in fantasy football not only has the potential to be league-changing, and there's nothing better than your last pick in fantasy winning your league, but your last overall pick actually, I think, is more than just that. I think your last overall pick says something about you as a drafter. Because the last overall pick, there's almost nobody left. And it's all down to who did the most research. And this is the player that I'm drafting with my last overall pick in almost every single draft. And if you're watching live on YouTube, I'm showing a absolutely baller picture of Cordarrelle Patterson. Cordarrelle Patterson is my last round pick in almost every single best ball draft that I'm doing. And look how far down he is. If you're watching live on YouTube, I'm still scrolling. Look, his average draft position, 215. He's basically not getting picked. He's not getting picked in almost every single league that I'm not in. But Cordarrelle Patterson is the ideal last round pick. Cordarrelle Patterson on the Atlanta Falcons, who are about to lose Julio Jones. You could argue Cordarrelle Patterson is their 3rd best wide receiver. Maybe 4th best. But he could be their 3rd best wide receiver. And if you look at their running back depth chart, he is their 2nd best running back. He is their 2nd best running back behind Mike Davis. And you add those 2 things together, and there is, it's Calvin Ridley, it's Russell Gage, and then I think you could argue that it is Cordarrelle Patterson. Again, Julio Jones is gone. He's out of Atlanta. We don't know where he's going yet, but he is definitely leaving. So Cordarrelle Patterson could become their 3rd receiver. He could become their 4th. I think more realistically, he's their 4th. Russell Gage is absolutely a sleeper as well. But the rushing upside for Cordarrelle Patterson, Mike Davis has never been a lead running back in the NFL. I think Mike Davis is a average or slightly above average running back. I think he's clearly the number 1 running back for the Falcons, and I like the volume potential there. But will anyone be surprised if Mike Davis is a complete bust? I certainly will not be. And enter Cordarrelle Patterson in the running back slot for the Atlanta Falcons with my last overall pick in every single draft I've been doing. And I'm going to absolutely ball out. Yo, you coming on my show? Let's talk about Eli. Yeah, Sneaky G-Man. I'm honestly so down. DM me and we'll set up a time. I know I ticked off a lot of Giants fans with the video I posted about Eli Manning. And yes, I absolutely am a salty Patriots fan. And that was more honestly, the Eli Manning thing is tough for me because he really, and we'll talk about it on the podcast if you're nice enough to have me on. I'm happy to come on. Seriously, happy to come on. But Eli Manning was an above average quarterback his whole career. The best thing Eli Manning did, obviously, he had these amazing historical Super Bowl runs, which I do agree, by the way, that are enough to put him in the Hall of Fame. I 100% think Eli should be in the Hall of Fame, and I 100% think he will be in the Hall of Fame. But he wasn't that good. He really wasn't that good. He was not that good. He's probably going to be the least talented Hall of Fame quarterback ever. He's definitely less talented than almost every other quarterback in the Hall of Fame, and it will be probably forever. Other than those 2 Super Bowl runs, the biggest thing Eli did was just have a really long career, which isn't saying that's that's impressive. He had a very long career, but he also just wasn't that good for most of his career. Will Daz Newsome have a year like Mooney did? Interesting. I definitely could see it. Do you think Justin Fields will be a top 10 QB in the future? Yes, I do. He's got the rushing upside, and that's where the quarterback position is going in fantasy football specifically. I'm back on the clock here, and I'm going to be waiting on my next quarterback for sure. Rondale Moore is an interesting guy that's available. The thing with Rondale Moore is there's just a lot of heads in front of him. So I'm actually going to draft Brashad Perriman here, and because I'm going to be able to stack a lot of Detroit Lions wide receivers. I could get every single Detroit Lions wide receiver on my team still. Take a look at this. I have Amon-Ra St. Brown still available. I have Tyrell Williams still available. And Quintez Cephas is still available. I could just draft all 4 of these guys. And again, remember, this is a best ball league if you're watching live on YouTube. This is a best ball league. So if I just get all of the Detroit Lions wide receivers, one of them is going to have to do something each week. And I don't have to guess which one. It's going to automatically input my best lineup for me. And the Detroit Lions are going to be the worst team in the NFL. I don't think there's going to be a team worse than them. I do not think any team is going to compete with the Detroit Lions for being the worst team in the NFL. I honestly think the Lions might not play. They might not win a single game. But they're going to have to play, and they're going to have to throw the ball a lot because they're going to be down a ton. And so I really like this end of draft stack of the Lions receivers. I do. And Brashad Perriman, look, I'm doing this in the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th round. There's no cost to me here. And I'm just locking in at least one receiver for me each week. Like one of them is going to score a touchdown. One of them is going to go for 70 yards in a week. So I do like this strategy a lot. And I'm going to have to draft one more quarterback in this draft as well. I'm done with running backs. If you're watching live on YouTube, you can see how this draft started. Brashad Perriman is so bad, though. All of those guys are so bad, though. This is the thing. They're all bad. Brashad Perriman and Quintez Cephas and Tyrell Williams, literally all 3 of them are the exact same, like slightly below or maybe a lot below average players. You could argue they're all bad. They're all also like the same archetype of player. They're all just like straight deep shot wide receivers. They can run a vertical route. This is like what all 3 of them do. Tyrell Williams, Quintez Cephas, and Brashad Perriman. They're basically all 3 clones of each other. These are the top 3 receivers, or Amon-Ra St. Brown, who they drafted in the draft as well, who isn't exactly that same type of player. But these are the top receivers for the Lions. This is literally their top receivers. And one of them is going to produce in fantasy each week. One of them. TJ Hawkinson's going to lead that team in targets, which is why I love TJ Hawkinson. But one of those receivers is going, like, there's going to be one of those guys that ends up being an insane value. And my bet is Brashad Perriman. I think he's probably the best of the group, but I have no idea. It could easily be any of those 4 guys. I have no strong conviction about the horrible wide receiver depth chart of the Lions, but they will score fantasy points. Some of them are going to score fantasy points. This is a fact. What's your opinion on Melvin Gordon this year? Javonte Williams is going to touch the ball more than Melvin Gordon. So I want nothing to do with Melvin Gordon. There's 2 times a year NFL teams tell us what they're thinking. There's only 2 times. There's only 2 times a year. And it is in the draft, and it is in free agency with how they spend their money. It's in the draft with how they spend their draft picks. And the Denver Broncos believe Javonte Williams is a Ezekiel Elliott level of player. So, sorry, Melvin Gordon, you're off my fantasy football radar. Someone asked in the YouTube chat a little while ago. I didn't get to it immediately, but I wanted to get back to this question. Who are some players that I'm just completely avoiding in fantasy football? And there's a few of them. There is a few guys that I'm completely avoiding, and one of them, sadly, is DeAndre Swift. It's DeAndre Swift, because DeAndre Swift is going in the 2nd round, 3rd round. Most drafts, 2nd round. Super hot take. Javonte Williams is the best running back in the 2021 draft. I wouldn't be that shocked. It would be a little shocking because I wouldn't be that shocked if he's better than the Jaguars' Travis Etienne. But I would be surprised if he's better than Najee Harris. What I wouldn't be surprised by if he has a better season than Najee Harris. And those are 2 different things to me. Who's better and who has the better season are definitely not always the same thing. And I won't be surprised at all if Javonte Williams has a better season than Najee Harris. And if that happens, I would be surprised. But if that happens, I do think it's possible. And if that happens, it's going to be because of the offensive line of the Steelers. That's going to be the reason. Let's see what quarterbacks I'm looking at. I'm going to take Zach Wilson with my next pick, unless he's picked right now. He is the last clear starting quarterback left on the board. He has rushing upside. Zach Wilson is available in the 15th round. There's 3 rounds left in this draft. This is after most last round of most drafts end before the 15th round, or in the 15th round. And Zach Wilson's sitting here in the 15th round. And Zach Wilson's uniquely different than a lot of the other rookies, because Zach Wilson's going to be starting week 1. We don't know that about Justin Fields. We don't know that about Trey Lance. We definitely don't know that about Mac Jones. I want to talk a little bit about Mac Jones, by the way. What is your go-to first-round pick? Yeah, let me walk through the first round really quickly. I want to talk a little bit about Mac Jones as well, because I've been finishing up my 2021 NFL season-long projections, which are going to be in the WalterPicks app in the next few weeks. But as we launch our draft kit in the WalterPicks app, go download the WalterPicks app, by the way, if you haven't. I've spent thousands of hours, tens of thousands of hours at this point of my life, building the WalterPicks app in the iOS App Store. Go check it out. It's going to help you dominate fantasy football. It's going to help you dominate all fantasy sports. It's going to help you dominate with player props and all things DraftKings and FanDuel. But if we look at the first round, my go-to first-round pick, first overall, it's Christian McCaffrey. Next, I'm looking for Saquon Barkley. I love Dalvin Cook as well. I've been drafting Saquon Barkley second over Dalvin Cook. That might end up being a mistake, but I do not consider injury analysis in my drafting. I just completely ignore it. I honestly think it's an edge I have in fantasy football of just completely ignoring injuries. And I have 3 picks left in this draft. Let's see if there's any interesting tight ends. I'm going to draft Christopher Herndon. I'm going to go with 3 tight ends instead of 3 quarterbacks because I got Zach Wilson. And this is round 16. I do still think there's some upside with Chris Herndon as the top tight end for the Jets. And there's a new coaching staff. This is the thing with Chris Herndon as your last round pick at tight end. 1, we know he's athletic. And 2, we know there's very little competition at the tight end position for the Jets. And 3, there's a new coaching staff. So even though he's always been bad and hasn't played that much, maybe he will now. Maybe he will. And if he does, the athleticism gives him some upside. How did Gronk go so late in this draft? Yeah, people are really out on Gronk because O.J. Howard is coming back. O.J. Howard's going to be back to full health. So it's just unclear how much Gronk is actually going to play throughout the season. What's definitely clear is that Rob Gronkowski is going to help the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win another Super Bowl. Because in the playoffs, everything's thrown out the window and you can play Gronk as much as you want. But in the regular season, realistically, how much is Gronk going to play? Did you create this app on your own? Victor, I built this app with a very small team. A team of about 4 people. We currently have about 4 people on the team. So no, it was not just me, but yes, I've spent a lot of time on it. A lot of time. I have led the development of the app. How did Gronk go so late? Already missed Patterson. Yeah, this is my last round pick in every single draft I'm doing. I've got 2 picks left, by the way, in this draft. Look, there's two rounds left. There are 2 rounds left in this draft. How's it going, Terrence? It's going well. How do you feel about Irv Smith? I'm not that excited about him. I'm just not that excited about him. And I understand the reasons to be excited about him, right? He's an athletic, talented tight end. He's gotten through his rookie season. Rookie seasons are the hardest for tight ends. He's heading into years that should be much more productive for him. But he's the 3rd or 4th option in the offense. He's the 3rd or 4th option in a run-first offense. The Minnesota Vikings are going to be a run-first offense. This is why Dalvin Cook's going 2nd overall. This is exactly why I'm just not that... It's hard for me to get excited about Irv Smith. I don't think he's going to be consistent. He's not going to be consistent. There's almost no way Irv Smith can be consistent if that whole team stays healthy. Which is the case for most of the tight ends. Who are your favorite late-round tight ends? Yeah, my favorite late-round tight ends. Take a look at this. I've done about 100 drafts already. 100 best ball drafts. And this is the tight ends I've drafted, in the percentage of times I've drafted them in each draft. This is the amount of money I've basically wagered on them. And Tyler Higbee's the obvious number one breakout tight end to target in your draft. The Tyler Higbee breakout is inevitable. I'm upset in this draft I'm doing right now live on YouTube. I didn't get him. I did end up stacking, though, Corey Davis and Zach Wilson and Chris Herndon, which I don't hate. I definitely don't hate it. But Tyler Higbee's the most obvious breakout tight end. So get Tyler Higbee. And he's going in like round 7, 8, 9. Waller and Pitts in Dynasty, that's probably the two best tight ends you could have after Travis Kelce and after George Kittle in Dynasty. So that's amazing. Pitts is, honestly, you could argue above, it could be number one. Pitts is going to be the number one Dynasty tight end sooner rather than later. Let's be real. So that's amazing. Are you high on Jonnu or Henry? I'm not high on either of them. It's hard to get high on either of them. Let's talk about the Patriots for a second. Let's talk about I'm on the clock right now. And I could take Big Ben, which is an interesting guy that's still available, but I am going to instead. The wide receivers are just so brutal that are left at this point. I'm going to take Jacoby Myers, I think. I'm going to take Jacoby Myers as another receiver. I do think Jacoby Myers, he's going to be competing with Kendrick Bourne, but you got to like what you saw to Jacoby Myers last season. Even though there was very little competition at the receiver position, he was in a really bad passing offense, and he was still balling. He was balling out. So that is encouraging for him. And my last pick, of course, is going to be Cordero Patterson, as I do in every single draft. But let's talk a little bit about the Patriots. Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry signaled that the Patriots are going to run a lot of two tight end sets, which I'm very excited about as a Patriots fan. There's going to be a lot of two tight end sets, which means only two wide receivers on the field at a time. The big question for the Patriots is, when is Mac Jones going to play, though? Because Cam Newton's offense and Mac Jones' offenses are going to be totally different. The Patriots have to implement two completely different offenses for their two different quarterbacks. Cam Newton can't throw. He can't throw very well. And it's going to be a rush-first offense. With Mac Jones, I do think they're going to be able to throw the ball. But Mac Jones, and I've been doing a lot of research. What round are you on? This is round 18, the last round of the draft. Round 18. My team's basically done. I drafted 2 quarterbacks, Joe Burrow and Zach Wilson. I drafted 4 running backs, Cam Akers, Kareem Hunt, Javonte Williams, and Kenyon Drake. I drafted, I think, 10 wide receivers. 10 or 11, I think 10 wide receivers. I just drafted Cordero Patterson with my last pick. And I started with a very strong 5 wide receivers. A.J. Brown, Amari Cooper, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Corey Davis. And my tight ends aren't great, but I drafted 3 of them, so I should be fine. Noah Fant, Anthony Firkser, or Christopher Herndon. I think this could be $1 million ticket, guys. I'm feeling pretty good about this one. 2 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 9 wide receivers, 3 tight ends. What up, Sam? How's it going, Jack? How are you doing, Jack? How do I feel about Najee Harris? I think he's one of the few running backs in the NFL that has a legitimate chance at 300 carries. And there's just not that many. There's not that many running backs that are like that. I'm going to do one more of these drafts live on this YouTube stream. Again, if you want to watch me draft live on YouTube, I'm joining a draft right now. $25 best ball draft. I'm going to talk through some strategy as I'm drafting. Basketball Kid, how's it going? We're four people away from getting this draft going, then we'll see what pick I get. I'm going to answer some of your YouTube questions while we're waiting for this to get started again. Isn't Higbee also competing for targets with Kupp, Akers, and Woods? Yes, he is. He is competing for targets with all of those guys. But he's going to be on the field the entire game. There's no more Gerald Everett. And the offense as a whole, you got to understand, the offense as a whole for the Rams is going to be much better. Matthew Stafford is much better than Jared Goff. There's plenty to go around for Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, and Tyler Higbee. But the real upside for Tyler Higbee really isn't competing for targets with Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. The upside for Tyler Higbee is touchdowns. It's the touchdowns. That is the upside for Tyler Higbee. He could get 10-plus touchdowns. It is within his range of outcomes. With how good that offense is going to be, Tyler Higbee has that upside. Would you rather have Julio or Ridley? It's definitely Calvin Ridley. It's honestly not close at this moment in time. But I do think people are sleeping on Julio Jones just a little bit too much. Even before the trade rumors, Julio Jones was going in the 4th round of fantasy drafts. The 4th round. And when he's traded, depending on where he goes, I think he's going to stay at the 4th round or later. I remember that one year Higbee was a touchdown machine. Yeah, I agree. I remember that too. He had, in last season, I think it was like week 2, he had 3 touchdowns in one game and then didn't do anything the rest of the season. Would you rather Julio or Ridley? I'd definitely rather Ridley. If you rank first, What will you do with your $1 million? Wow, Vargas. This is such a good question. I think if I did win the $1 million prize, and this question stemming from this, I'm doing 150 drafts, $25 each. So I'm investing about $3,000 to $4,000 in this tournament. This is a fantasy football tournament, a best ball draft tournament. The prize pool, first place gets $1 million. Let me pull this up so you can see on YouTube as well. So this makes sense. And I think my picture's ahead over this. Take a look at this. This is the prize pool that I'm competing for right now. And if I win the $1 million prize, what will I do? What will I do if I win the $1 million prize? I'd like to think that the $1 million prize will not change my day-to-day life very much because I'm already doing what I love with my life. And so the money shouldn't change what I'm doing day to day. But it should. I would take this $1 million and I would put at least half of it straight into my bank account for the future of my family. That's probably what I would do, the first half of it. The second half of it, I would probably either invest in my company, WalterPicks, / donate. I'd probably do that with the rest of it. And I'd make sure I have enough to do these drafts also for the rest of my life and continue to compete in these tournaments because they're very fun. That's probably what I would do with the $1 million. But I hold the right to change this. I hold the right to change my answer to this. I got to do some more thinking about this. And I don't think I'll ever really know until I actually win it, too. What is this site? This is called Underdog. Underdog Fantasy. By the way, when you deposit on Underdog, you get a $25 free to play. The first time you deposit, they'll give you just $25 free to go play. So there is a lot of upside to just depositing your first time. You can test it out. Test it out if you like it. And we're going to be doing this draft live. This is going to be my last draft of the night, and then I'll end this live stream after this draft ends. Probably another 45 minutes, around 6 o'clock. Do you like Matt Ryan because of all the weapons he has? Yeah, but Julio Jones is leaving. So he's about to have less weapons. I want to talk a little bit more about the Mac Jones to Cam Newton thing, because Mac Jones is who I'm hoping starts sooner rather than later as a Patriots fan. Right? I know Cam Newton's not the future, and it really wasn't that great watching him throw balls straight into the ground last season. But Mac Jones is not going to start right away. There is actually no chance Mac Jones starts in the first 4 weeks of the season because the New England Patriots cannot play Mac Jones against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Week 4. They can't do it. They cannot let the media run away with Tom Brady, Super Bowl champion Tom Brady, Tampa Bay Buccaneers against Mac Jones, his predecessor, on the New England Patriots. Was it the right move for the Patriots to move on from Tom Brady? Did they do the right thing now that they have Mac Jones? They can't let the media spin it this way in Week 4 when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers come to New England. So Mac Jones won't play the first 4 weeks of the season just because of that, minimum. Maybe he starts Week 5, Week 6, I could see. But there's also a chance it takes much longer for him. There's a chance Bill Belichick is very stubborn with Mac Jones, which would be annoying because we need him out there sooner rather than later as a Patriots fan. But I just don't see them putting him out there against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, against Tom Brady in Week 4, in primetime. I just don't see it happening. I do not see it happening. It would be very surprising. And behind me, you're seeing Cordell Patterson, by the way, who is my favorite last-round pick in fantasy football so far this season. My favorite last-round pick. I don't see this changing. Thoughts on Zeke this year? Vargas. Good luck, bro. Thanks. My thoughts on Ezekiel Elliott are this. I think that you have to take his season last year in context. He didn't look good. He looked very washed. Tony Pollard looked better than him. But he also had no offensive line. He was dealing with injuries, and there was no Dak Prescott. Jordan, happy birthday, man. Thank you for tuning in on your birthday. CB Fishing, how's it going? Great to see you here again, my man. CB Fishing, listen, I've talked myself into Cordell Patterson as my last round pick in every fantasy draft because Julio Jones is leaving, so he could be the third receiver for the Falcons behind Russell Gage. I think more likely he's the fourth. But the really exciting thing about Cordell Patterson is the running back depth chart for the Falcons. Assuming they do not sign any of the free agents available, and there are a few still available, he's their number 2 running back. behind Mike Davis, who's not that exciting of a running back. There is a realistic path to Cordero Patterson being the number 1 running back for the Falcons. I could see it. So this is why I'm drafting him in every single draft with my last overall pick. I don't have to invest much in him. I don't have to invest really any risk at all. And this draft has filled up. So let's see what pick we're about to get. If you're watching live on YouTube, we're doing a live draft on YouTube, and let's go. Let's go. I love getting a top 5 pick. Absolutely love it. So I get to talk a little bit about my top 5 pick strategy here. If you want to watch a live draft, by the way, on YouTube, it's starting in 20 seconds. So you haven't missed anything yet. I just got given the 5th overall pick. And we're starting this live draft in 20 seconds. And this is a best ball draft. So there's 18 rounds. 18 rounds. I'm going to be drafting 3 to 4 running backs in the first 4 rounds. And then I'm not going to draft running backs again. Best ball draft means I don't have to do any in-season management. There's no in-season anything. I just do the draft and I'm done. It automatically inputs the best lineup for me at the end of each week. Yeah, Dylan, I can give a shout out to anyone whose birthday it is. What's his name, man? Do you do fantasy basketball? Yes, we did DFS fantasy basketball, DraftKings and FanDuel. Season long's coming next year in the WalterPicks app, though. Yes, we do fantasy basketball. But I want to talk about my top 5 pick strategy because I have the 5th overall pick in this draft I'm doing right now live on YouTube. And if you're watching live on YouTube, guys, hit that like button. It really does help me out a ton. I do appreciate it. Hoyt. Happy birthday, Hoyt. Thanks for tuning in. I do appreciate it. I hope you had a good day, too. But with the top 5 picks, this is really what I'm thinking about here. Christian McCaffrey's going first overall or second overall. This guy's going to make a mistake if it's not Christian McCaffrey. And he goes first overall. Saquon Barkley, if he's there at 5, I'm 100% taking him because I'm taking him at second overall. Then I'm going Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry. And lastly, I'm going Alvin Kamara. So I'm going to get one of the top 5 running backs. I'm going to get one of these 5 guys. This is why I love the 5th overall pick. Because all 5 of these guys could legitimately finish as the number 1 running back this season. Really, Christian McCaffrey's ahead above all of them. But the next 4 are all in a similar tier 2 for me. So I'm happily going to take any 4 of these guys. Saquon Barkley, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara. In this draft, you're seeing Dalvin Cook went second, Derrick Henry went third. Come on, give me Saquon Barkley at 5th. I would be so excited. But I'll be happy with Alvin Kamara as well. The thing about Alvin Kamara, and Saquon Barkley goes 4th, so I'm taking Alvin Kamara 5th overall. The thing about Alvin Kamara is his receive. Look at this. 3 straight seasons for Alvin Kamara with 80 catches. No other running back in the NFL has done this. 3 straight, honestly, I'm not sure in the history of the NFL. 3 straight seasons with 80-plus catches. And the Saints have no receiving options yet again. Michael Thomas is going to be getting at least 150 targets, but the odds-on favorite to be number 2 in targets for the New Orleans Saints is Alvin Kamara. And this is a half PPR league. It's not a full PPR league. But that still just gives him insane upside. Jonathan Taylor goes 6th overall in this draft. I like Alvin Kamara a lot more than Jonathan Taylor because I feel like added risk with Jonathan Taylor. Do I think that there's potentially more upside for Jonathan Taylor than Alvin Kamara? Yeah, I think there probably is. But the floor is not the same. Alvin Kamara has no real competition for his lead role on the team. Jonathan Taylor is going to be the lead running back for the Colts, but Marlon Mack and Nyheim Hines could also very well be involved. What do you think about Antonio Gibson this year? I like him a lot. He's going in the 3rd round. The top 3 best running backs this season. I subbed. Aiden, I appreciate you, man. If you're watching live on YouTube, definitely hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button. Let me show you, by the way, a little better view of this so you can see exactly what's happening. If you're watching live on YouTube, you're getting a live view of a live draft. I'm in right now, 5th overall pick. And I'm going to be asking for your help throughout this draft as well as I talk some best ball strategy. But I'm only drafting 2 more running backs in this draft. And I'm going to want to draft them early. So a lot of times what happened in the last draft, if you've been in this live stream for a little bit, I drafted A.J. Brown over Najee Harris. And you see A.J. Brown goes before Najee Harris in this draft as well, which is kind of a good sign for my last draft. But A.J. Brown over Najee Harris in the 2nd round, even though I like A.J. Brown more than Najee Harris, the thing about these drafts is the running backs go so early that in the 4th, 5th, 6th round even, you're just not looking at good running backs at all. What do you think about DJ Moore? Does he have upside? Yeah, he definitely has upside. I think DJ Moore is one of my favorite mid-round wide receivers. You're getting him in like the 5th round. And he is going to do better than he did last season. Sam Darnold's going to improve just based solely on the Adam Gase effect. He's going to do better. Like, worst case scenario, he's definitely doing better. And there's no more Curtis Samuel anymore. I'm on the clock here, so let me see who's available. I'm going to be on the clock in like 2 picks. We've seen a lot of running backs go. No, I don't want to enter autopilot mode. No, thank you. And the running backs available, Devontae Adams is still available. Darren Waller is still available. I'm liking both of these running backs, Antonio Gibson and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Darren Waller's also still available, though. And I really, really want to consider him. But I need to get my second running back. I'm going to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire over Antonio Gibson. And this could be a mistake. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire is quite simply in the better offense. He's in the better offense. And he's just an obvious bounce-back candidate for me this season. He's an obvious bounce-back candidate. He was going top 5 picks in fantasy drafts last season, and all of the same logic still holds for him this season. He had a very disappointing rookie year. This is Clyde Edwards-Helaire I'm talking about. But he's also still in the best offense in the league, and he also still has good receiving upside. So I still do like him. But the reason I'm in on DJ Moore, a big part of the reason I'm in on DJ Moore, see if I can find this picture, is Sam Darnold is going to benefit from the Adam Gase effect. I know, I like Antonio Gibson a lot too. It might have been a mistake taking Clyde over Gibson. And I really did want Darren Waller as well. But I had to go with Gibson. I had to go with Clyde. There. I feel like Clyde has more upside. Just because of the offense. Homie got benched. Yeah, I do think that Clyde is going to bounce back. But Sam Darnold is going to have his best season of his career this year. I mean, it's just plain and simple. He's going to benefit massively from the Adam Gase effect. And DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson are both going to benefit from that as well. So I like both of them. DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson in fantasy this season. I do. I like both of them a lot. See if I can pull up a draft here on TikTok that I did recently. I stacked Dak Prescott with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb in this draft. It's tough to see with the chat. So I will go back to this screen here with my tight ends. And I'm back on the clock, and I'm going to take Michael Thomas in the 3rd round every single time. I don't even need to think about this one. It's really just not that hard. And I know I have Alvin Kamara as well, which I don't love. Yeah, why is Michael Thomas's ADP so low? It's so low because people are just so down. They're so down on Michael Thomas because of his last season. The thing about Michael Thomas last season is he sucked. Like, he wasn't good when he was playing. The thing about Julio Jones, people are down on Julio Jones too. But Julio Jones was good when he was playing. Julio Jones has really never been bad on a football field. Julio Jones averaged 85 yards a game last season when he was playing. Michael Thomas dealt with injuries, yes, but when he was playing, he was trash. He was nothing. He did basically nothing on the field when he was playing. But I'm not that worried about it. I'm not that worried about it because he has no competition. There's nothing competing with Michael Thomas for targets. Nobody, except for Alvin Kamara. I basically am going to get all of the New Orleans Saints targets on this team. I honestly am going to want to draft Jameis Winston really late in this draft because that is a really intriguing Saints stack that I have. Yeah, Michael Thomas's ADP is literally right next to Amari Cooper and Allen Robinson. Look at if I pull up the draft board here, you'll see. Oopsies. If I pull up the draft board here, you can see this. Take a look at this. Look at the receivers that are going and where I got Michael Thomas. Keenan Allen before Michael Thomas also doesn't make sense to me. Michael Thomas has a legit chance for 170 plus targets. He's almost a lock for at least 150 targets. He's one of the safest wide receivers. Give your opinion on Pitts if Jones stays versus he leaves. Listen, I'll talk a little bit about if he stays. I like Kyle Pitts if he stays too. But to me, he's leaving. Like, Julio Jones is leaving. I think it's pretty clear at this point. Based on everything, he's leaving. And that's great news for Kyle Pitts. It's good news for Kyle Pitts. I don't think it honestly changes that much for Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley was a wide receiver 1 either way. He's a top 5 wide receiver now probably in fantasy football. But Kyle Pitts should see more targets now. With no more Julio Jones, he could be the number 2 target in that offense, and that's a big deal. Kyle Pitts is a top 5 tight end already in his rookie year, which is insane. It's insane because Kyle Pitts is playing a position. Do I think Kyle Pitts is going to live up to the hype? He definitely is going to live up to the hype career-wise. Like he's going to be, at some point in his career, a top 3 tight end in this league. That's how good of a prospect he is. What I'm not as confident in, and I'm still betting on this, I still think it's going to happen, but I'm not as confident that he's going to be that good in his rookie season because he's playing the hardest position to be a rookie in. There's no position, honestly, in all of sports, but specifically the NFL, there's no position that's harder as a rookie than the tight end position. There's no position harder. Historically, rookie tight ends really struggle. It's really rare we see a tight end in their rookie season be good and do a lot as a receiver. They have to learn everything. They have to learn the running game. They basically need to know everything an offensive lineman knows and everything a wide receiver knows, all in one. It's insane. They need to know the offense as good as the quarterback. So, yeah, it's a very hard position. Let's see what I'm looking at here. I'm about to be on the clock. I need one more running back, but I'm definitely intrigued by DJ Moore and Jamar Chase. I'll probably take a running back with the pick after this. How do you approach auction drafts? I approach auction drafts with a few lower valued guys that I really want. Similar to drafting, right? You have your sleeper picks. Have your sleepers ready in auction drafts that you know you're going to pay a little bit above price for and still feel good about. You got to go in kind of with a price point in mind for a lot of players, and you got to be adaptable in those drafts. I'm gonna draft DJ Moore with this pick ahead of Jamar Chase. Because I do think Jamar Chase, there's a chance he's there with my next pick. If not, though, I'm probably going to take Kareem Hunt with my next pick. And that's going to be the last running back I take. That's an extremely high upside running back group that I'm going to have. Alvin Kamara, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Kareem Hunt, who's my most drafted running back in all of these drafts. Pitts isn't going to be blocking anybody. This is a good point. I mean, yeah, he will be on all of the run plays. But he is a very good receiver. I'm bought in on the Kyle Pitts hype. I'm bought in on the Kyle Pitts hype. And if you look here, if you're watching live on YouTube, he's literally the next tight end that's going to be taken. And I should be considering him like with my next pick. This is how early you have to take Kyle Pitts. In the 5th round, this is when you have to draft Kyle Pitts now. So I'm considering Kyle Pitts. I'm considering not Kyler Murray, Kareem Hunt. I'm considering Jamar Chase if he's there. YouTube chat, let me know what you think. I'm going to need one more running back in this draft, at least. 1 or 2 more running backs. I haven't drafted a tight end yet. And if I draft Kyle Pitts, I'm probably only going to have to draft 2 tight ends. But if Jamar Chase is there, I'm probably going to take him. YouTube chat, let me know what you think about what I should do with this pick. And I'm going to take your feedback into account. Are you only drafting 3 running backs for best ball? Yes. This is a best ball strategy, specifically a tournament strategy. I'm competing against thousands of other teams for the $1 million prize, and it's a high upside, high risk strategy. Mark Andrews just got picked. This makes me want to take Kyle Pitts even more. Jamar Chase gets picked. So Kyle Pitts or Kareem Hunt. This is what I'm deciding between. Kyle Pitts or Kareem Hunt, depending on who's picked by Bobby T here. Should I pick Kyle Pitts or should I pick Kareem Hunt? Let me know in the chat, guys. What do you think? Kyle Pitts or Kareem Hunt? Boris is saying Pitts. Donnie's saying Kareem Hunt. Getting some conflicting messages here. I think I'm leaning towards a lot of people saying Hunt. Thoughts on Mike Davis? I do like Mike Davis. A lot of people saying Hunt. Bears is saying Hunt as well. Kobe Sports saying Hunt. Pitts with Julio going. I'm going to lean with Kareem Hunt, who I've drafted the most in almost all of these leagues. Because, and I waited too long. I got Kyle Pitts. I drafted Kyle Pitts. The decision was made for me here. So this is good news in one way. Because I've drafted Kareem Hunt in a lot of leagues. If you take a look, if you're watching live on YouTube, take a look at this. If you're watching live on TikTok, take a look at this. Kareem Hunt is my most drafted player. I've drafted him in 40% of my drafts. in 100 of these drafts. So one draft without Kareem Hunt isn't going to kill me. I have Kareem Hunt in a lot of leagues. A lot. I have almost $1,000 already risked on Kareem Hunt. I love the dichotomy for Kareem Hunt. You're already drafting your fantasy team. This is a best ball league, so it's unique because there's no in-season management. So it's not really my fantasy team, it's just my fantasy draft. I just have to do the draft. My best lineup's automatically made for me each week. This is why it's called best ball. There's no adding, dropping, or trading. There's just the draft. And I'm competing for $1 million prize. This is what I'm going for. $1 million prize. I'll show us on the live stream on YouTube as well. This is ultimately the goal. To get to the $1 million prize. And there's going to be up to 155,000 other teams that I'm competing with. This is a tournament think of it like a DFS, DraftKings, or FanDuel tournament where you're competing against thousands of other lineups. But in this tournament, I can win in first place $1 million. And this is why I like Kareem Hunt so much in these drafts, because the floor is there. And the strategy I'm going with for this draft, by the way, for these drafts, in most of these drafts, is because of the roster constraints here, I only need to start 2 running backs a week, but the drop-off in running backs after the first 3, 4, 5 rounds is just so massive that you really don't want to be drafting running backs after round 6. But since I only need to start 2 of them, my hyper-fragile, hyper-upside strategy is to draft 3 or 4 running backs in my draft early and never draft another one. This is not on Yahoo. Yahoo actually does have the same thing. But this is on Underdog. We have a partnership with Underdog, by the way. Use code Walter if you sign up. But this is on Underdog. They have the best platform, definitely the best app for this. And they also have the biggest tournament. No other platform has $1 million contest. I do think DraftKings maybe has $1 million contest as well. Biggest DFS win. It's going to be this. It's going to end up being this. This is going to end up being my biggest DFS win right here. $1 million. Okay, I'm on the clock again. Let's see what we're looking at here. I already drafted DJ Moore, which is some incentive for me to draft Robbie Anderson as well to get this stack. So I'm definitely liking what I'm seeing with Robbie Anderson. I'm not going to draft Justin Herbert or Russell Wilson early in these drafts. And I'm going to end up taking Devontae Smith probably with my next pick. So I'm going to go with Robbie Anderson here. I've talked myself into him. Get my 3rd wide receiver. I'm going to draft a lot of wide receivers because you can start 4. Take a look at this. You can start 4 wide receivers each week. If you look at the roster constraints here for a second, you can draft 4 wide receivers. You can start 4 wide receivers each week. Take a look at this. This goes through the roster starting and scoring. The roster starting lineup, each week. Robbie Anderson's always a good mid-round pick. I agree. Round 6 is where I just picked him. A little early. It's a little early. But I already drafted DJ Moore, and I like stacking players in best ball because it increases the floor, right? If you think about it, there's a better chance that one of Robbie Anderson or DJ Moore scores a touchdown than there is just one of them. It lowers the ceiling a tiny bit, but if I'm probably going to draft Sam Darnold super late in this draft as well. And now you can see a lot of running backs being picked. I'm not drafting another. I only need to draft 1 more running back now in this draft because I did not get Kareem Hunt. I'm going to strongly consider Raheem Mostert with my next pick. But who I really want to take is Devontae Smith, who's my most drafted player in all of these leagues. Because in round 7, I absolutely love Devontae Smith. What's your thoughts on Jonathan Taylor? When are you drafting him? I'm a little concerned about Jonathan Taylor in terms of his price. He's going between 6th and 10th overall in every single draft. Between 6th and 10th overall in the first round. And I do think he has the upside to warrant him being drafted there. But what concerns me the most is his floor. And so this is why I'm drafting Alvin Kamara over him. I'm drafting all the other top 4, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. I'm drafting all of them over him. I'd also draft Travis Kelce before I would draft Jonathan Taylor. So that puts Jonathan Taylor, and I would also argue, you could make the argument for Zeke over Jonathan Taylor as well. So that puts Jonathan Taylor in a point for me in my rankings where I'm just not drafting him that much because he's going so early in every draft. What's your thoughts on Jonathan Taylor? That's my thoughts. Robbie Anderson is always a good mid-round pick. And if you're watching live on YouTube right now, guys, I'm going to be drafting. I really want to take Devontae Smith over Raheem Mostert, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to listen to my heart here. And my third running back's not going to end up being that good. But for Raheem Mostert, they just drafted Trey Sermon. They traded up for Trey Sermon, in fact. So there's a lot of concern with Raheem Mostert there. I know that Jeff Wilson is out now for at least the first 6 weeks of the season. So it's really going to be the Trey Sermon and Raheem Mostert show. So I do think there is a floor involved with Raheem Mostert. But to me, Trey Sermon really caps his upside. So honestly, I think I might just wait for Kenyon Drake super late in this draft. And that's going to be my third running back. Because I think there's a receiving floor with Kenyon Drake that I really like. And if Josh Jacobs gets injured, Kenyon Drake has league-winning upside. So that could be my third running back. Is Devontae Smith the biggest late-round sleeper in fantasy? Yeah, I think he is, Kevin. Because Devontae Smith is one of the best wide receiver prospects of all time, and you're getting him in round 7 on a team that desperately needed a wide receiver. He has basically no competition. He is going to lead them in targets. He is an insane deep threat. He has insane speed, amazing route running, incredible hands. The only knock on him is his size, and I'm honestly not that worried about his size. So this is why I am in on Devontae Smith. It's why he's my most drafted. He's my most drafted wide receiver in all of these leagues. Can you talk about your tournament roster construction strategy? Play your studs at running back and load up on wide receivers for the volatility. Yeah, exactly. This is exactly what I do. This is exactly correct. And I like to stack my wide receivers as well. And by the way, Bears 54. This is a tournament that I'm drafting for right now, right? There's going to be 150,000 drafts. And each one of them, I need to win the league, and then I'm going to be playing against all the other teams that won their leagues in week 14, 15, 16 for the $1 million prize. And so I'm using that same strategy here, right? I'm loading up on running backs early. I'm going to draft a lot of wide receivers. I drafted a tight end early here because the gap of tight ends is massive. You either want to pay up for tight ends or you want to spend almost nothing on them. So I'm going to draft, hopefully, Tyler Higbee with one of my next picks. He's the next tight end available, so we'll see if he's there in 2 picks from now. And then if I do get Tyler Higbee, I won't need to draft another tight end. But looking at who's left here, I will take Tyler Higbee with this next pick. So I'm pretty excited about the 2 tight ends I landed here. Kyle Pitts and Tyler Higbee combined, fantastic group of tight ends that I have. I don't need to worry about the tight end position for the rest of the draft. And by the way, look at the tight ends left. These guys are all gross. Most of them are probably going to bust. And none of them are going to be consistent. Tyler Higbee offers insane touchdown upside. No more Gerald Everett. And he's getting Matthew Stafford. The Hig Beast. I love it. The Hig Beast. That one might catch on. My favorite nickname currently is Ayuka the Bazooka, which I also learned from the comments section. And that one is definitely, I'm sticking with that one through the whole season because I absolutely love Brandon Ayuka the Bazooka. You got to draft Fant late. The thing about Noah Fant or Fant, I always don't know which one it is. Someone's got to clarify this for me, if it's Fant or Font. But the thing about Noah Fant is that he is on a run-first team, and he's the 3rd passing option. So that's the worst part. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, then Noah Fant. And Javonte Williams is going to be a big part of the backfield along with Melvin Gordon. So it's hard for me to believe Noah Fant's ever going to be consistent. And he's also already picked in this league. He's picked before Tyler Higbee, which I disagree with. I would rather Tyler Higbee than Noah Fant in fantasy football. So talking of Bears 54, getting a little bit back to the roster construction strategy. I'm going to be drafting in this league only 3 or 4 running backs. I keep trying to stick to 3, which is super risky. But in tournaments, risk is okay. Risk is totally okay. Because it comes with upside, right? As long as the risk is attached to upside, it's fine. And I'm about to be on the clock again. Let's see what running backs are available. Kenyon Drake's coming up soon, but I'm going to hope I can get him with a later pick, I think, than this. Matthew Stafford's available. I'm very interested in that. And I also really like all 3 of these wide receivers. Mike Williams, Antonio Brown, and Michael Pittman. I've been drafting Michael Pittman a lot. I think Pittman's going to be the lead wide receiver for the Colts. But I'm going to draft Matthew Stafford here as my first quarterback. I'm doing this also a little bit more incentivized to do this because I also got Tyler Higbee. So if the ceiling outcome for Tyler Higbee can come true of the 10-plus touchdowns, I'm also going to be stacking that with Matthew Stafford. Are you worried about drafting this early? Could trades/injuries move the board significantly? Or is that part of the edge you gain from drafting this early? It is both a worry and an edge, right? Some of the things I'm doing, and I think specifically Kyle Pitts and Devontae Smith, as we start to see Devontae Smith absolutely balling out in training camp and preseason, and Jalen Hurts, we hear Jalen Hurts' deep ball is looking good. He's going to be moving past the 7th round where I'm getting him consistently. I also think Michael Thomas is going to be moving up as well. And so, yeah, things are going to change. Injuries are going to happen. Trades are going to happen. But there is added risk and some added upside here. So this is why I do like doing some of these drafts early. But I'm going to make sure I'm going to do 150 total of these drafts, but I'm going to max entry this tournament. Best ball, you do want upside for sure. Exactly. We're just drafting for upside, Donnie. Almost exactly. Unrelated, but Yang Gang. This is part of it for me, that I'm going to do 150 entries. So I want to make sure I'm doing a bunch early. And I've done about almost 2/3 of my entries. So I'm going to be slowing down on these very soon so that I can make sure I get some entries like much, much closer to the season. The other part of this, though, is the draft, the tournament will fill up at some point, probably like potentially before the preseason or like at the beginning of the preseason. If you take a look at this, it's already 9.9% full. So it's almost 10% full. And it hasn't been out that long. So I've weighted myself kind of early in this drafting. I've done almost 100 of the drafts. So I'm going to be slowing down very soon to make sure I can also do drafts closer to the season. It is something I've been thinking about. Because there will be news that comes out. I really hope I can get Kenyon Drake with his next pick, by the way. Or Corey Davis. That would be exciting, too. Thoughts on Cam Akers early second? Yeah, I took Cam Akers in the first round in the last draft I did on this live stream. That's how good Cam Akers is. Cam Akers could see the ball 30 times a game. He could see the ball 30 times a game. That's what he was seeing in the playoffs and right before the playoffs. He could have a Todd Gurley level season. That is within the range of outcomes for Cam Akers. So this is why I'm in on Cam Akers in the second and honestly late first round. I'm a big fan of Cam Akers this season. All right, I want to get back to some of your questions in the chat. If we're playing Dynasty Fantasy Football as well, I'm definitely in on those questions. We're in round 10 here, so we got 9 picks left. We got 9 picks left. I already have one quarterback. I'm done with my tight ends. I'm feeling pretty good, honestly, with how this team's coming together. I'm hoping I get Kenyon Drake and Corey Davis with these next 2 picks, but I'm going to be drafting Kenyon Drake first as my last running back. The thing about Kenyon Drake, and you see this report here, could see some snaps at wide receiver, is the report that this most recent report 2 months ago they said this. And then this is classic offseason, by the way, of running back X could see snaps at receiver. But Kenyon Drake should be involved in the passing game. And he's behind a very good offensive line that if Josh Jacobs were to get injured, Kenyon Drake could be a league winner for me. And again, this is a tournament, so I love that upside. I absolutely love the upside for Kenyon Drake. I honestly think he struggled with the system in Arizona. And he was limited by Kyler Murray's rushing in the red zone. Any advice for 2 QB dynasty? Yes. Yes, actually, all of the dynasty leagues I'm in are 2 QB leagues. I'm actually more familiar with 2 quarterback dynasty than single quarterback dynasty. And in 2 quarterback dynasty leagues, I'm telling you, you need to value quarterbacks extremely highly. You need to, in the startup draft 2 quarterbacks in the first 5 rounds, and you will not regret it. There's also so many good young quarterbacks. You don't necessarily need to do it in round 1. But you need to have 3 good quarterbacks on your team. And they are always going to have really good trade value. This is the thing. This is why they're so safe in Superflex leagues as early picks. Because they have such long careers. We're seeing Tom Brady still playing. He's like 80 years old. We're seeing quarterbacks play older and older and older, honestly. Aaron Rodgers was the MVP last season. And he's old. And he thinks he has 5 years left. He's going to play till he's Tom Brady's age. So I do think that you got to draft quarterbacks early and get some of the good young quarterbacks. There's a lot of good young quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, obviously. There's a lot of really, really good young quarterbacks. Even Zach Wilson is a guy that I feel like is probably going to go at a really good price in Superflex Dynasty leagues. I'm new to Dynasty Draft this Sunday. I know it's good to draft younger stars. Any tips for suggestions for me? Yeah, my biggest tip for everyone in Dynasty is go get CD Lamb. Go get CD Lamb immediately, as soon as possible. And I don't know when that is in a startup draft exactly off the top of my head, but probably in the first 4 rounds. You should feel pretty good about drafting CD Lamb. My biggest piece of advice, Kevin, think of rookies who disappointed in their rookie season, but still have a lot of upside. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a guy that stands out to me. And Corey Davis gets picked 4 picks before me, so let's see what we're working with here. Marvin Jones is an interesting option as a high upside receiver. I think I'm going to go with Marvin Jones here and continue drafting wide receivers. Marvin Jones does have some upside, he's tethered to Trevor Lawrence, and the Jaguars clearly liked him. They went out and signed him. I just did a startup and CD went in the 3rd. Yeah, there you go. I don't hate it. That's how good CD Lamb can be. Will N'Keal Harry ever break out? I was high on him coming out of college. Thunder 5850. I was so high on N'Keal Harry coming out of college. I was so high on him that as a Patriots fan, the second after the draft, as the soonest possible time I could, I got an N'Keal Harry jersey. And I honestly think I was the one who jinxed it. So N'Keal, I'm sorry. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen, man. I think he's a bust. I think that the Patriots, it's where you go as a rookie receiver to fail. They are so bad. They are so bad with rookie wide receivers. He was a can't miss prospect. He had one of the most productive college seasons ever at a young age. Are you big on Saquon? Yes, I am. I am big on Saquon. I'm not very big on DeAndre Swift, though. You buying into DeAndre Swift as a 2nd or 3rd rounder? No. I don't know if you saw those reports today. I think they came out today. It's been a long day, so I'm not exactly sure. It might have been yesterday. Todd Gurley is looking like he's going to sign with the Lions. I don't think this is a huge deal for DeAndre Swift, but they have already said they want Jamal Williams to be involved too. The offensive line is encouraging. This is the best part of the whole Lions team, is their offensive line. The whole rest of the team is trash. Like, DeAndre Swift is good. The offensive line is good. The entire rest of the team is horrible. Look at their wide receiver depth chart. Look at the wide receiver. This is astonishing to me. The wide receivers on the Detroit Lions: Brashad Perriman, Amon-Ra St. Brown, if I said that correct. He was their rookie pick. Quintez Cephas and Tyrell Williams. These are their top 4 wide receivers. Oh my God. I mean, I've never in my lifetime, my 24 years on this earth, I have not seen a worse wide receiver group. And honestly, it's not close. I don't know who their top receiver is. I mean, TJ Hawkinson is their top receiver. TJ Hawkinson is also very good. But also Jared Goff is a lot worse than Matthew Stafford. So there's just a lot going against the offense as a whole, outside of the offensive line. Which is why I don't love DeAndre Swift, because I think he could lose some running work to Jamal Williams and potentially to Todd Gurley. What about the Jets last year? Yeah, Jamison Elite Crowder is better than all those guys I just mentioned. Denzel Mims is probably better than all those guys I just mentioned too. Brashad Perriman was the 3rd receiver on the Jets last year. He could be the top receiver on the Lions. He could be the top receiver for the Detroit Lions. I'm about to be back on the clock here. And Anthony Ferkser just got picked, but I'm good with tight ends. So I don't really need to worry too much about that. Goff low-key could get them to the Super Bowl, though. That would be, honestly, one of the most surprising things in sports history. If Jared Goff took them to a Super Bowl. In much likelihood, they might not. I think it's more likely they don't win a single game than they win a Super Bowl. And Brashad Perriman sitting here again. I'm gonna take Elijah Moore. I think Elijah Moore has a pretty good chance to be the number 2 receiver for the Jets this season. I really like him as a prospect as well. And my second quarterback, by the way, I want my second quarterback to be Sam Darnold, like very late in this draft, because I drafted DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. So I want to finish that stack off with Sam Darnold, and I'm going to bet on the Adam Gase effect with this team. I stacked Matthew Stafford with Tyler Higbee. I'm going to stack Sam Darnold with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. And honestly, I might draft a third quarterback in Jameis Winston to complete this Saints stack as well. Because look how late these guys are going. This is round 13 that we're in. I'm going to be getting these guys in round 15, 16. So there's really not much cost associated with them. And I can just continue to hammer wide receivers. I'm going to draft Denzel Mims again, or Terrence Marshall if he's there. Terrence Marshall's intriguing because I could finish that Panthers stack. Thoughts on Josh Reynolds? Every indication is he's going to be the number 2 guy. Yeah, I like Josh Reynolds a lot, too, at his current average draft position. I do. I like him a lot. I think Josh Reynolds has upside to fill that Corey Davis role. The Corey Davis role was actually pretty valuable last year. I have the 1.10 in a half PPR redraft. Should I take Zeke, Jones, Eckler, or Akers if they're all still there? I would probably rank these guys, Aiden, in the order of Ezekiel Elliott number 1, Cam Akers number 2, Eckler number 3, and Jones last, because we don't know what's happening with Aaron Rodgers. And Terrence Marshall gets picked right before me, and so I'm going to pick Josh Reynolds here. I was thinking about stacking Elijah Moore with Denzel Mims, because one of those guys is probably going to break out for the Jets. But Jameson Lee Crowder's there too, and he's not going away yet. I do like the upside with Josh Reynolds. So I picked Josh Reynolds here. The other thing about the Titans is there's no Jonnu either. That's the thing. There's no John. Like, it's not just he's getting the Corey Davis role, but there's also no Jonnu Smith. So I do like Josh Reynolds as a flyer. Nah, Asante Samuel Jr. was death the steal of the draft. You think Akers is getting overrated? No. I do not think Cam Akers is getting overrated. Cam Akers was getting 30 carries a game. Browns fan here. Kevin, how we doing? Thanks for joining. Hit that like button, by the way, if you're watching live on YouTube. Do appreciate it. You still think there will be a lot of production with OBJ this year? From a fantasy football perspective, it's very hard for me to get excited about Odell Beckham Jr. and definitely about Jarvis Landry. Because for Jarvis Landry, Odell was out most of last season, and he still wasn't a wide receiver 1. So, like, what's the ceiling for Jarvis Landry? To me, it's like only a floor that you're really drafting him for. And I don't love that. Odell, though, is still one of the best receivers in the league. And I feel like this gets overlooked these days because he's on a run-first team, and they're one of the best running teams in the league. Nick Chubb's the most talented. You could argue Nick Chubb was the best running back in the league last season. You could argue he was more efficient than Derrick Henry. On a yards per touch basis, he was. On an evaded tackles per touch basis, he was. Nick Chubb's insane, guys. Nick Chubb is absolutely insane. And Kareem Hunt's obviously very good too, so I can't stop drafting Kareem Hunt. And the offensive line's really good. And so they're going to continue to be a run-first team, but I do still think Odell's going to produce. I won't be surprised at all if Odell Beckham finishes with at least 10 touchdowns. Like, it's not going to surprise me that much. I don't hate Odell Beckham at his current average draft position. Like, all that stuff that I just mentioned, it's kind of getting priced in. Let's take a look at where he went in this draft after I make this pick. Ooh, and I'm going to get Traquan Smith to finish out the Saints stack here with Jameis Winston. And then I'm hopefully going to draft Sam Darnold right after. Traquan Smith should be the number 2 wide receiver for the Saints. Again, look at the Saints depth chart at wide receiver. Behind Michael Thomas, it is even worse than the Detroit Lions. It goes Traquan Smith and then a bunch of guys that 99% of NFL fans have never heard of. It's like Callaway and another name I'm blanking of. Your streams always lag. Really? This is disappointing. On YouTube or on TikTok? This is important for me to know. Let me know. Is it lagging on TikTok? Is it lagging on YouTube? Is there any lag on the YouTube stream? Let me know in the chat. With the gunner guy on the Patriots turn, will the gunner guy on the Patriots turn into the next Edelman? No, I think Jacoby Myers is the better bet to turn into the next Edelman. Deontay Harris, yes, you're right. Deontay Harris and Callaway. C.H. Gaskin, Gibson, J.K. order. I would go Clyde, then Gibson, then J.K., then Gaskin. No lag here, no lag in TikTok. Oh, that one TikTok guy, I think it might be you, man. I think it might be you. And people are saying no lag on YouTube. This is good feedback, by the way. Thank you. Yeah, I think this might be you, man. I think you got to go connect to some Wi-Fi. It sounds like it's a you problem, not a me problem, which is good news for me, because lag is the worst thing ever. So I'm sorry to hear you're having lag, but I'm going to be drafting Sam Darnold with this next pick to complete the Carolina Panthers stack, and I'm probably going to take Jameis Winston with a pick soon after, probably with my pick after that. And by the way, I don't even think Sam Darnold's the best quarterback available. I think I would rather have Zach Wilson or Daniel Jones in fantasy football over Sam Darnold this year. Zach Wilson and Daniel Jones both have more rushing upside. And I think, honestly, the Jets as a whole are being slept on by the entire league. I don't think they're a playoff team. But they're going to benefit massively from the Adam Gase effect. And I have 18 total roster spots, and Zach Wilson just gets picked. I really hope Sam Darnold doesn't get picked. That would be really disappointing. but I don't think he's gonna. I don't think he's gonna get picked. I have 18 total roster spots, and so far you can see here I've drafted 8 wide receivers, 3 running backs, 1 quarterback, 2 tight ends. I'm gonna draft 2 more quarterbacks, and then I have 3 picks left. 4 picks left. 18 rounds. So I'm gonna draft 2 more quarterbacks and 2 more wide receivers. And I'm 1 pick away from getting Sam Darnold here to definitely in a tournament. I wouldn't, even in a non-tournament, I would max draft 3 quarterbacks. Get 3 quarterbacks you know are starting. Like, get 2 quarterbacks you know are starting week 1. Right? So that doesn't include Trey Lance or Justin Fields. Definitely doesn't include Jameis Winston either. But I do think Jameis Winston's going to win the quarterback job for the Saints. I do. I think sooner rather... There's just no way Taysom Hill can start at quarterback the whole season. There's no way. Take Locke over Darnold. I want nothing to do with Drew Lock, and neither does anyone else. Look at this. Drew Lock's all the way down here. Drew Lock's not getting drafted in most leagues. Because is Drew Lock even going to... Like, he's another guy. That the Broncos need another quarterback, a different quarterback. Drew Lock is not the answer for the Denver Broncos. Definitely not. I'm really liking how this team's coming together, though. If I can get Jameis Winston... Oh, and he gets picked... Jameis Winston gets picked. This is disappointing news. Should I draft Taysom Hill? I don't think Taysom Hill is the play here. I don't think that my team is going to be good if Taysom Hill ends up getting the quarterback role. So I think I'm just out. I think I'm going to stick with 2 quarterbacks or draft Daniel Jones if he's there. Jameis Winston gets picked in the 15th round here. This is disappointing. Rumpelstiltskin. Let's look at this guy's team for a second. He got Dak Prescott and Jameis. 5 running backs. This is too many running backs. Giovanni Bernard has no upside. Devin Singletary is interesting. I think he's going to struggle at running back, though. Zach Wilson's already picked. Big Ben is available. Jared Goff is available as well. Taysom Hill is also available. I don't see it. He's strictly training at quarterback. I just don't see it. What are the worries about Gaskin? The worries about Gaskin are Malcolm Brown. Malcolm Brown is the worry. Malcolm Brown stealing the goal line carries is honestly the biggest worry about Myles Gaskin. Otherwise, I think he's going to be a running back 2. I can easily see him producing running back 2 value, but the upside's just not there as much because they signed Malcolm Brown and they've been pretty adamant since they signed him that they want him to be the goal line back in short yardage back, which is just concerning. And let's take a look at the wide receivers left here. There's really nothing. There's really nothing very exciting. I think I'm going to talk myself into Bryan Edwards with this pick. I kind of want another quarterback, though. So I'm going to go with Big Ben. I want a 3rd quarterback on this team because my quarterbacks really just aren't great. And Big Ben has 3 of the better receivers in the league. The big concern about Big Ben, and obviously he was like the last starting quarterback drafted here. Maybe Cam Newton would have been worth waiting for, but Mac Jones is going to start again soon. Advice you would give to any new fantasy player? Yes, Caleb. Here's my advice. I have 2 pieces of advice for you. My first piece of advice is to draft a kicker and defense in the last pick with your last picks. Last picks, kicker and defense, and do not draft a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. Quarterback's the most important position in real football, but in fantasy football, there's a lot of good quarterbacks. My second piece of advice: go download the WalterPicks app in the iOS App Store because there's no better app out there for a beginner fantasy football player to come into a league and win right away, their first time ever playing fantasy football. I built this app. I've spent tens of thousands of hours building this app. It leverages machine learning and fantastic fantasy football analysis. And it powers the app to give very insightful and to-the-point fantasy football advice. It's going to give you a ceiling and floor outcome for every single player. And that we're going to be launching those projections in the next couple of weeks. But go download the app, check it out, let me know what you think. When will the video winners be announced? Tanks World, I'm glad you're asking this question because they're going to be announced very soon. I have been working around the clock bringing this idea, this Sam's crazy idea to life. And it's coming. It's coming, and we're very close to announcing. It's very close. We're closer than we've ever been. We're actually making final decisions about them, about who's going to be the 32, is going to be made by tomorrow. So next week or the week after, there's going to be some official announcements. And really, there's a lot of announcements coming from the WalterPicks brand in the next month to 2 months. Downloading it now. Thanks so much. No problem, man. Good luck. Good luck, and I hope you enjoy it. By the way, huge fan of your app. Use it every week. Kevin, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I can't wait to get those projections in the app. And you already know, by the way, I'm about to have my last pick in this draft. I'm going to be wrapping up the stream in about 5 minutes. But you already know, in every single league moving forward, I have landed on my last round pick. My last round pick this season. And it is going to be Cordero Patterson for as long as I can draft him in the last round. And so far, I've had no issues. Every single draft, he's been there. In an 18-round draft, he's been there. Let me walk through why I'm drafting Cordero Patterson. Guys, Cordero, there's so much. Wesley, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Will Chevy. Sorry, I said Wilshie. Will Chevy. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. There is... Here's the reason behind drafting Cordero Patterson with my last pick. Annual subscription, is there an option to pay monthly? Yeah, Ozzy, there is. But it is a monthly subscription, not an annual subscription. So there's 2 options right now in the app. You either sign up annually and you build annually, but it's a little bit less of an amount. I recommend the annual plan. And by the way, the prices in the WalterPicks app, they're changing soon. We're going to announce that soon. So if you do want the lower price point, we're going to grandfather every subscriber is going to stay at their current price, obviously. So I recommend subscribing now if you're interested in subscribing to the WalterPicks app sooner rather than later. Because we have a lot of new things coming to the app, and there's going to be a new price tier coming soon as well. But back to the Cordero Patterson thing. There's no better last round pick than Cordero Patterson. Yeah, he's versatile. There's a lot of different outs for Cordero Patterson. When you play poker, I love playing poker. You think about how many outs your hand has, right? There's like sometimes when you're bluffing or when you're not bluffing, you think about how many options you have. Ozzy, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Seriously. Every subscriber in the WalterPicks app brings me and the entire WalterPicks team one step closer to going full-time and doing WalterPicks full-time, and honestly, that'd be a dream come true. So that's really exciting. Ozzy, thank you. Cordero Patterson, though, he's on the Atlanta Falcons now. The Atlanta Falcons are about to trade away Julio Jones. So he could be the number 3 wide receiver on the Atlanta Falcons after Calvin Ridley and after Russell Gage. More likely, he's going to be the number 4 wide receiver, but still, he's going to play some receiver. But the really exciting part about Cordero Patterson is he could be the number 2 running back. He could be the number 2 running back on this team. I think he is. Mike Davis is number 1, and Mike Davis is one of the least exciting number 1 running backs in the league. So there is handcuff potential for Cordero Patterson too at the running back position, and on a lot of platforms when he starts playing running back, you better bet they're going to allow us to play him at wide receiver and at running back. It's going to be amazing. So the upside for Cordero Patterson in the event of a Mike Davis injury, or in the event that he just gets 3rd downs for the Falcons at the running back position, and he's there as their 4th receiver, it's too much for me to pass on. And so I'm drafting Cordero Patterson with my last pick here. And I drafted a hyper-fragile team here. Matthew Stafford, Sam Darnold, Big Ben. Pretty not exciting group of quarterbacks. I love Matthew Stafford, though, this season. I think he has a chance to have a career year. Sam Darnold, I got to stack him with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. And Big Ben, I just needed a 3rd quarterback. Honestly, I don't like him. My 3 running backs, I'm feeling very good about the first 2, and I think Kenyon Drake has a lot of upside. And these 10 wide receivers, I just got to start 4 of them each week. I'm feeling pretty good about this receiver group. And again, I got Devontae Smith again. I'm not letting Devontae Smith slide past the 7th round. And I got Kyle Pitts and Tyler Higbee at tight end. I could lead the league in tight end scoring. All right, everyone. I appreciate you tuning in. I really, really do. I'm going to be live again. Every Thursday around this same time. So keep an eye out for the live streams. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't checked out the WalterPicks app yet on the iOS App Store, definitely go check it out. Have a fantastic night, guys, and I will see you all soon. YouTube stream, thanks for tuning in, everyone. I will see you all soon. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet, and we'll be back at it sooner rather than later. Have a good one, guys.